everyone, and welcome back to the Lightbringers podcast. We have a big ass episode for you today because we're going to be talking about secrets of the obscure, and people can see your hands right now.
Big juicy ass.
We're going to be talking about secrets of the obscure and our review of it and its entirety, which is probably why I said ass and why Kroof was doing a round indication of motion. We have amazing guests as per usual. We have Fornix, we have Rookery, we have Kroof, our core Lightbringers with boots doing the baby dad stuff, which is awesome. Wishing them well. And hoping everyone who is watching live or watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or iTunes or all the places that you are very healthy, well, and enjoying the fact that Donald Trump got committed sorry, not committed, did bad things and he's going to be punished, but not as much as he should be. Anyway, charged, yes, 34 counts.
There it is.
34. It just entered my brain as like good things that are happening.
Convicted.
He's a felon.
Convicted.
Like he's an actual felon.
34 counts.
And then we go through the whole appellate courts, if there is going to be that, and the sentencing and whatnot, but...
Even comes into
life
the podcast.
topics.
I'm looking forward to the documents case. He's going to prison for that one, yes.
Well, we will leave that one there. That's my fault for bringing that in. But it's okay. We're going to talk about Secrets of Obscure. It's going to be everything. So from the very beginning, from when... We could even talk a little bit about maybe the PR and marketing of how maybe just before. We'll mention that from time to time, but I've got a long list of stuff. On my document, there is a lot. And I'm like, whoa, there's lots to get through. But also, we've talked about a lot of it in the past. So we need to go into humongous detail. So we're going to try and chuck it into one episode because next Tuesday, in fact, they're going to be releasing the information, well, some information about the next expansion, and we want to talk about that next week. And Kroof was like, well, they're releasing this next week, so we have to do it this week. I'm like, oh my god, like this.
It's how it works. I'm giving the people what they want.
It's exactly what they want. It's fresh and it's clean. I don't know.
Fresh and clean.
Yeah, so fresh and so clean. You heard that song?
Yes.
So fresh and so clean.
Yep, I've heard exactly that song and that cover of it.
I thought it was good. Fornex, tell us what you do and where you do it.
I'm so glad that you're gainfully employed in some other area other than music.
You should have seen my karaoke on the weekend because it was banging.
I think I heard you from here. No, so I'm Fornax, the Great and Herald. Hi, that's my video. Please go to my channel.
There's going to be huge spoilers.
Now and I'm
Sorry,
going to get booted off the podcast.
Spoilers.
I love that graphic.
There's going to be spoilers.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
So yeah, I'm Fornax. I'm the Great and Herald. I make content on YouTube. I have actually made content this month on YouTube. It went out today. It's my review of SoTO that we're going to be talking about here as well. And you can see it on the screen. Hello. That's me. Nice to be here. Hi, guys. Okay, that's it.
The Great and Herald on YouTube and on... you can also look up Fornax. You should be able to find it as well. No doubt we'll have a ton of views. It's a 20-minute video. You should at least... It's not even 20 minutes. You should go and watch it. It's easy peasy. Looks very detailed and very awesome as per usual. Yeah. I'm excited to watch that after I finish this episode of the awesome podcast. And you can also check out Fornax's stuff in the description below, as well as purchase the game from their link if you should so wish to support them, because we also will have that for sale on all of our links as well, because I mean, I guess you're going to be able to pre-purchase it soon, so we're going to have links that you can follow, so you can use, so you can support your favorite content creator, or just make sure you use someone's link at the very least. Anyway, I'm going to be promoting that for everyone, so
thank you, Witchlight. Thank you for watching my video, and sorry for the rough audio. I've got a cold, so I sound like I've been like fucking gargling gravel. It's awful. Anyway, thank you. I much appreciate you suffering through it.
I'm glad you went to go.
Carry on. Sorry.
Okay. Kroof, tell us what you do and where you do it.
Hi everyone, it's me, Kroof, coming back at you with another video after a little bit of a hiatus. I do a bunch of YouTube videos, but I also stream here on Twitch, usually towards the weekends. But I did create a video about the retrospective blog, and in that blog it also contains a little bit of a teaser for Expansion 5. So I kind of dissected that, gave my thoughts on the retrospective, and then also discussed what was shown in the teaser. And I'm excited to come back and talk about the retrospective again, because the more time you allow yourself to sit with a topic, the more insights you can kind of gain and your feelings can settle. So it'll be nice to see what everyone else is thinking around this blog post.
Excellent. So, Criff on YouTube, all the things, again, description, their links are in description, as well as a link for purchasing expansions, future expansions as well. Please make sure you use people's links. Go do the things. And then we have Rookery as well. Sorry. You got a little
How
bit of an
dare
extra,
you
you got a
announce
little
me
voice.
with an exciting? Yeah, how dare you?
You got an
No.
extra voice there.
I feel extra
Extra one.
hyped. Hey, I am Rookery. You can find me
Definitely
just
did
like
it better
that.
than I did.
No, actually, you did it. You did it great. I was just mimicking. You can find me on my Twitch channel, ROOKURI. Surprisingly enough, Rookery. You can find me on YouTube at the same, and you can find me on Twitter at Rookery_. I have not made a video specifically about the blog post, so please go check out Kroof and Fornax's. But we did do a playthrough of the last portion live on stream recently, and I gave a lot of my thoughts there, especially at the end as we kind of summarized general feelings about Secrets of the Obscure. And honestly, it was really cool seeing that a lot of this blog post also basically touched on, I think, most of the major points that all of us in the community had coming out of it. So excited to talk about it with all of you today.
Awesome. And you can see, if you're watching right now, you can see Rook's latest stream as well on Guild Wars 2, where they did all the things they were just talking about. Please make sure you check out the links in the description below, as well as the link for the expansion if you do want to support them through that, now or in the future. Massively appreciated. And finally, the bold one, me. This is where we are on twitch.tv/Jebro Unity on a Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific, hopefully mostly ish. Not really, it was a bit later today, not because of me. Well, it was because of me, but also on iTunes, Google, other places, podcast places where you can listen to the Lightbringers, or check out the stuff I do on twitch.tv/Jebro Unity. I just stream this podcast mostly as my focus, as well as a little bit of a mini stream sometimes on a Saturday as well, where we just do a bunch of variety stuff. Yes, let's get to it, shall we? See, I actually wasn't sure where to start with this, because there was the blog post, and I was like, well, we could read the blog post, but that's, that could be a bit long, could be a bit, like you said, we've kind of discussed it. We could pick out some points maybe as we go along that might be important, but I kind of just wanted to start with maybe where Secrets of the Obscure came up. So, because the retrospective is after anyway, so it would have been like our impressions during. Not everyone's going to read the retrospective anyway, like a tiny portion of the community are probably going to even read that video or live stream, and because that would be cool. So I wanted to think about first, like, how it was announced, the kind of build up to Secrets of Obscure, maybe spend just a little bit of time on this. I'm wondering, maybe Fornax, how did you feel when we first got the kind of announcement of Secrets of the Obscure and your excitement for it? And yeah, do you have any thoughts? First thoughts?
I was worried. I was worried
worried?
because my head's doing weird things. I was worried. My head is doing weird things. I don't know why. And it's okay. It's fine. Everything's okay. My head is not actually doing that in real life. I was worried because they were changing course. They were going from these massive, like wildly packed expansions that were really underpriced. In all honesty, they should have been charging more, and they were coming down to a more manageable content size, and I was kind of worried. And I think that some of my fears were justified but I think that I think that what they always do is they learn and they iterate and they move forward. And I love the fact that they're putting their workers first rather than just like milking the cash cow at the expense of their employees. And I have so much respect for that. And a huge part of how I reviewed the expansion was looking at it in isolation rather than as part of the big collective works that went before, because it's just not fair. It's half the time, half the price. And so trepidation going in, but hope that they could really change course and do something extraordinary.
Did you, with the worry, did you feel like they kind of, was it that they were going to do a lot less specifically and that was going to be a concern in terms of the things they're going to produce in the future? Or is it just like, oh, is this going to be the last expansion? Or like, I mean, because we didn't really know anything, right? We didn't know a lot. I mean, I guess we knew the kind of trajectory they wanted to go for. Like, can you tell me more about the worry specifically? I mean, is it that with the story in mind as well at the time, because they ended this 10-year kind of thing, dragon?
I mean, it was a huge moment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and the spectacle of the end of Dragons and that extraordinary meta and even just the excitement around the meta and the world first that generated from it, it's such a hard act to follow. And for me, I'm a diehard fan. I've been playing since it was Guild Wars, not Guild Wars 2. So I'm in this until the fucking bitter end.
Exactly.
But what my concern, I'm a hopeless cause. But my concern was that a change of footing, right, would kind of scare the community, yeah? And the last thing MMO players are skittish beings, and they're very territorial, and they like their things, they like their ducks in a row, like that they shit in order, and when people start to mess with their toys, they can get a bit sensitive about it. And this massive, I call it a massive studio, this medium-sized studio is changing footing for the better for themselves and for the longevity of their employees and everything. And gamers are not always the most understanding human beings on the planet. I put myself in that category as well. And I was just worried that they might, if they stumbled or had a misstep, that the community might punish them. And that was my concern, really. Because I think that they've made so much fantastic stuff, and they've done so many innovations, and they've like changed the landscape of the MMO-verse. You can see the influence of Guild Wars 2 in every single other MMO on the market today. None less, I mean, World of Warcraft even has kind of taken so many beats from Guild Wars 2, and that's the most. So when the most successful MMO is looking at you and saying those are great ideas, you know that you're making something extraordinary, right? And I was just concerned that a misstep might damage the franchise, to be honest.
I think that was kind of a shared experience between you and a few other people as well. It's very logical as well, because it is such a drastic shift in scheduling that I think for me it was a bit of hope, but also a bit of you don't know what to expect. So it was kind of a mixed bag of emotions. I think when you do change something, I think it inherently is exciting because it is a shakeup. It's nice to have a new direction if you're going into more of a modern era and how you want to take your product. So I was looking kind of at that aspect, but I totally understand there was that little bit of, are people going to be receptive to this structural change? Will the structural change produce content in a manner that will be satisfactory to players? So I definitely was thinking that as well.
Well, Proof, do you want to, since you're talking now, do you want to continue and say sort of like same question to you? Like,
yeah, I mean,
I know it's a bit
I think
obscure.
I was a bit more optimistic, because while I have loved Guild Wars 2 for so many years, after 10 years of a very similar formatting between like an expansion, a 3-year wait in between having a Living World season, it does become a little bit formulaic. It does feel like, oh, we're treading similar ground. And even with that system, it was peaks and valleys. It was never as consistent as I wanted it to be for a game. So I found that with this shakeup, I didn't even care what it ultimately was going to be. I was just like, just change something and kind of stick with it to hopefully become something more consistent, to hopefully have a better result than what the expansions and the living worlds were kind of producing, in my opinion. So I was a bit more optimistic about this schedule because what was shown early on seemed very structured. There were timelines, there were actual bits of like a spreadsheet showing which content was going to release with which update. So I was like, okay, what they were showing, I was a bit more on board than maybe other people were. But I tend to be optimistic, and we kind of saw how it ultimately turned out. And should I have been as optimistic? Maybe not. I could have been a little bit more skeptical, but I think I quickly learned to, you know, adjust on the fly. But that was kind of what I was feeling going into the expansion. And I think I remembered I also wanted a bit more like marketing videos for this expansion as well.
It was goddamn always. Yeah.
I think the positive outlook is why people actually maybe engage with your stuff, Kroof. Like, so one of the reasons. So, and it's the same with all of you, actually, other than Fornax, because obviously they're a doomsayer. But like, you know, that's why Fornax is here. It equals us all out. I'm joking. Maybe sometimes. But like, I don't think they're gonna deny it though. That's the thing. Even if I am joking.
We love you.
I am a curmudgeon, so fuck you.
No, I love it. I think you might have sharp observations and not be afraid to state them, but I think you do always very well balance them though. You always have like just as many positive things to say for any of your harsher critiques, I feel, because you go out of your way to make sure that you're giving a balanced, objective look at things. So.
And you're English, so it's just natural to be a bit of an ass.
Yeah.
So I love you for that.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, we've known each other for a long time now.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
we're okay with calling each other.
Yeah, it's completely
names.
true. I've got no defense whatsoever.
You just can't know. You can't know Fornax's pet name for me. It's too adult oriented. So.
Oh yeah.
Wait 2 seconds as well. Before we go to Rookery, because interestingly enough, I just looked up one of the first articles or bits of information we got about Secrets of Discord. Do you remember it being that kind of that image, the picture of what was it, the Cryptus and what they look like? That wasn't the first information we got about expansions, but this is. I know it's not on the screen properly because I've got it set up for video right now, but. It's a general gist. It's obscured. Oh god, I'm so good today.
Silhouetted concept art.
Yes, just the concept art, and even looking back at it now, like how accurate, like, you know, pretty cool. And it was just a snippet. That was May last year.
I forgot how different these ended up looking to the actual Cryptus.
I mean, some of them are later, I think. On in the story. Like, if you look at the top right, oh god, I can't even. What is one of the you can't see anything, I'm not going to change it now, but it looks like more one of the commanders, like one of the bigger guys with the long legs and the smaller bodies up top and stuff. That was on one of the commanders. The guy on the bottom right, if you look at the blog post, is actually one, I think is one of the bosses, and I started to recognize them. But the one you can see on the screen in the middle at the top, I'm like, I don't know which one that is, because his hand's kind of up like that, and I'm like, I don't know.
He's dancing, clearly.
Is he dancing?
He's dancing.
He's dancing. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm kind of sad we didn't get Sorehead. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Disgusting, but amazing.
Haven't we got that one in there? I think we have.
I don't think so.
I think he's one of the bosses.
I think there's one that looks somewhat similar, but it's a bit more
I think this is
humanoid.
This is like the first initial art, though, right? Isn't it? From
Yeah.
ages and ages ago. Rookery, what did you think? And like with all the information we knew and like leading up to the expansion, like how are you feeling about this whole new kind of journey, I guess?
I think everybody hit some really good points. For myself, I might have been a bit more positive coming into it, or maybe not even saying like more or less positive, but perhaps a bit less apprehensive.
Yeah.
Because it felt to me like this was such a logical step for them to take as far as expansion formatting went, you know? I did have high hopes that if they were able to really focus the team and not be dividing between, you know, living season, other expansion stuff, and to be able to focus in on these smaller portions as opposed to trying to, you know, in the background create this like 2-year sort of expansion. That we just saw drain resources and drain a lot of the team over time, even leading up to End of Dragons, right? Like, because, you know, those last couple episodes of Iceberg Saga were some where we had a lot of thoughts and opinions and feedback about, because we kind of saw a similar drop off as they prepped for that 2-year expansion. So I had a strong thought that I was like, oh, I feel like doing this for the year cycle and being able to, you know, focus the team in more on these different hunks without having to prep something like a, you know, 2-year full-on expansion drop should give us more of a throughput of quality. So I felt like it made a lot of sense and it was a good model for them, and I understood why they were doing it. I think that, as we'll talk about today, I saw more of that drop off than I thought that I would, and they acknowledged it in the blog post as well. So I feel like I am in a different place now than I was when it kind of started. Where maybe now, as we go into this next expansion, I'm feeling a little bit of that apprehension everybody else was feeling for Secrets of the Obscure.
Oh,
but...
that's a good... Can you remind me about that at the end? That's a really good question. Like, are you feeling different? Yeah, cause that would be an end of the podcast question if we get time. That's actually really good. You know, I'm going to write that down right now. Look at you lot being good at this.
We're sometimes smart.
Sometimes we know things about stuff.
Are you feeling about the next one based off first thing? That's a note for me. I will ask it in a better way. So what I'm going to do is, and this is more of a logical way of, like, in my brain, this works better. We're going to talk about features individually and not in chronological order that they were released necessarily. So we're not going to talk about each update in a row. We're going to talk about story. We're going to talk about maps. We're going to talk about features, like combat features. We're going to talk about group content and instant content. And we're also going to talk about things like, you know, new creatures, other public instances. We're also going to talk about even equipment that was added, like legendary armor and stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about masteries, and also mounts as well, because mounts was a thing, and even things like, you know, the weapons that were added. And also, you know, and when you start going through it, you really realize how much they added and how much actually they may have even added in comparison to other expansions, which is actually really interesting. Especially when I went through this list, because I was like, oh, this ain't going to take long to put together. It took me hours. I was like going through it and I was like, oh, there's another thing. Oh, there's another thing. Oh, it was more like going back and researching to make sure I had all the right bits. Bear in mind, our document is just a wiki and I've just edited it. And I'm picky, so maybe it took me a bit longer than I thought. Story. Let's start off with the story, because we ended with story last time, and I think, you know, story is the thing which really drives an expansion. It sets up literally everything. Every piece of content other than maybe combat specifically is driven by this. Not world v world or, you know, PvP necessarily.
What's that?
Huh?
Exactly.
Story. Sorry.
No, sorry. No, he missed it. He missed it. Chad missed it.
It went over my head. I'm sorry. Can you, like, DM me or something?
Think about it.
No, don't do it. It's gone now. So we're going to talk about story. And we can we'll talk about it as a general piece, I think, because if we start talking about individual pieces, we're going to go on for ages, and I'm going to kind of time us, because I don't want to go on for longer than 15, 20 minutes.
We all got 1 minute to talk. Let's go.
No, in generally, I'm going to time it, because I want to make sure that we get to everything, because I want to give each piece as much time as each other.
Mine will be just a minute of weeping. It's fine. We'll be fine. It's okay.
I want to start
with the ASMR weeping channel.
I'm going to start a rookery on this. I'm going to go around and give people different time to talk. So
it's like hot potato.
A little bit, but I'm going to pass the melting quaggan. Sorry, I don't know. Rookery, thoughts on the general story? Enjoyment, like your opinion, just yours. if you
overall the story of
enjoyed
Secrets
it,
of the Obscure.
yeah, if you enjoyed it, what do you feel could be how if yeah, I'm wondering, and I'll ask you all this, whether or not you want to rate things as well. I'm always very skeptical about rating things out of 10 and stuff. But like, you know, I don't know if that's something we want to do. I mean, if anyone wants it, I'm not sure if my gut's going that way, but we can if you want. I don't know.
I did on my video.
You did on your video. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Do you want to do?
Alright.
Are people comfy doing it? You don't have to if you don't want to. Actually, I'll put that in there. You don't have to.
Okay.
You can just say I enjoyed it, and I think that was enough, judging on how much I paid for it and the system and like the amount of time I spent, and it was good for what I wanted the experience to be. You can say things like that as well. I don't want to put pressure on people to give a rating because unless you want to, you can. You're fine.
I think a lot of this I touched on because I had a lot of big thoughts and feelings last
For
episode,
sure.
right? As we dove into the details of Secrets of the Obscure. It's difficult because I would almost rate the first half, like the very first thing that was released, and then all the rest of it as almost two separate things. Because like the initial drop of story, to me, had the absolute best of the narrative of Secrets of the Obscure. And that expansion that I played, I would be like, especially for $25, 10 out of 10. Like, incredible. Like, I love the world they've introduced. I love the characters. I love the setting. There were so many details in many of the story instances as well. There were some great follow-up collections and achievement collections. It is a big, sprawling cast, but you know, I thought that especially for that first release, that a lot of what they did give us and show us at least introduced us to them and gave us some kind of foundations to build on with many of the characters. And many of those characters were really wonderful in their concepts and ideas, and brought some things that we wanted to see. And you know, the whole premise of this expansion is a concept that I think could have been one of my favorite MMO expansions of all time, because I love the setting, I love what they were trying to do with it, and I think that they had some really memorable and interesting ideas in their take on fantasy, that they had all there in ingredients. So that first release, 10 out of 10. The rest of the expansion experience probably would have been like a 2 out of 10 for me. Honestly, I hate. I really.
Wow.
I know.
That's
I hate
exciting,
to
though.
say it.
It is a little,
I know,
isn't
hi,
it? Isn't
yes.
it exciting though? Like to hit, like, I mean, because Rick's always like, you know, I'm not saying that it's negative, but like, it's just like 2 out of 10. I'm like,
The
let's
power
go.
you just mustered from saying 2, ooh, 8.
Let's go.
Like I don't say it to be. I mean, to be
Also,
like a
I
huge
just want
downer.
to preface this as well. You know that there was a video that came out of all of our excitement and joy of the expansion, and it was a majority of it was actually during the beginning of that part. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a little bit of criticism out there from people that people were kind of expressing this enjoy and excitement and enjoy in the game in a fake way, and it's like, I'm sorry, but there is no one in that video that can do that. There is no way that they are going to fake that, because it's no point. It doesn't matter. The reason why people have the viewership that they have is because people authentically, genuinely get that experience, and they like that people show their joy for things. And that's why they watch people like Rook. So like, that is really, really important. And it doesn't mean that we don't enjoy the things, right? Like you said, you're going to say so.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. And the thing is that, like you said, a lot of that footage came from the initial drop. And like I just said, the initial drop of the expansion was like a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't put upon excitement or anything like that. It really feels like there was this sharp divide in my enjoyment of Secrets of the Obscure story. And even if I loved a lot of the premise and concepts of the 3 additional patches that we got, the way the story was delivered, the lackluster structure of the story, the repeated go around and explore stuff, the maps that I felt like lacked a lot of the nuance and depth that we had gotten from End of Dragons, even in their world building and storytelling. We got another cast of characters, but I didn't feel like any of them were half so memorable or so well illustrated for us as the ones that we'd had established in the initial drop of the expansion. And then the culmination of the finale, which was incredibly brief and didn't have any cinematics. And even though it had some shining moments where, you know, there were some pretty decent concepts in some of the instances, and the culmination of the meta, I think, is very cool. And, you know, little touches or details here or there on the maps and with the characters. I love Paitha, but I agree that we could have gotten much more with her to make her even more compelling and interesting. So it's really unfortunate, because for me with the story, I feel like the things I hoped this year-long format would help them navigate came back again. And even switching to this kind of new cycle and format, the drop in narrative quality out of everything else in the expansion, the drop in the story's breadth, depth, and immersion was so noticeable that it was really... The last 3 patches, I think I felt some of the least momentum narratively that I have in the game in a very long time, which I hate to say, because again, the foundations of this expansion they were a real high point for me, and I love the concepts that they tried to bring in. So
that is,
Agreed, though.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I would like to, when you say the characters, I think that is a very important point. Sure, we've talked about it in the past, but I want to then ask you, who was, I don't like saying favorite character, because like but who is a
Fan
character
favorite.
that came, who's a character, a new character, or maybe even old that came back, maybe like Tammy or whatever, that was like most impactful for you specifically, or that you enjoyed, even if it was just because of their humor, like because of something else?
I mean, I think, as much as I love Paitha's design, and again, the lore,
Some
the
favoritism
lore
there,
of her.
Rookery,
I mean, look, let's be real. She's hot. She's hot, and I love Giant Demon Mommy. I come up to her waist. She can pick me up. You know what I mean? She can crush me. I love her design. But I think ultimately the characters that really shone for me were some of the supporting characters within the Astral Ward. So characters like Gladium, Urchik.
yes.
I really enjoyed Dagda. I think that the fact that she's a Jotun was really exciting. I mean, just that entire side ensemble cast. Our dwarven character, what's his name?
Lear.
Lear.
See, Rookery was doing a bit there, Proof, you see.
Oh,
I wasn't.
Well,
You were doing a bit? Oh my
I didn't
god!
remember what his name was. I'm
Removed.
sorry.
I thought you were
Well,
doing a
Jebro,
bit. I thought you
for
were
that
doing
bit,
a bit. Oh
you
my
didn't
god.
jump on the bit, okay?
I know,
So
because
I
was
had to
gonna
do your
say the
job for
piss.
you.
I was gonna
No,
say
thank
the
you,
piss.
Proof.
Oh my god, I wasn't doing
You
a
taking a
bit.
pee. You're not taking the piss. You're taking a pee. Where were you? You were on your break.
To me,
That's what
I
the
feel
piss
like,
is. That's what piss means.
well, Jebro, who, you know, completely missed the fact that I actually needed help. Thank you, Crew, for being so sensitive and understanding that I needed
welcome.
to
Oh my
jump
God.
in and just save me there and get me that. Thank you. No, Lear, I think all of those supporting characters to me were the best. But they also were the most supported. And if you went through all those instances and you read all the journal entries and all the letters and all of the information, if you talked with them and you paid attention to them in the meta events, if you did all the bonus dialogue, they were characters that I think they established their personality, their memorable traits. They gave them something that they were either fighting for or some context for who they were.
Absolutely.
And we got a sense of who they were together as well, what those relationships were, what it's like working in this ward. And so for me, I felt like they were the most memorable and probably my favorites. Because we just didn't have quite the same support, or even I haven't done all of the collections, the achievement collections from the later stuff, so I need to do those still. But I didn't get the same sense of depth to a lot of the Cryptis, which was unfortunate because I probably would have walked away really loving them. But I think the Astral Ward are my big takeaways.
I would agree. And I also think that many of those characters you just named are also some of my favorites, and I loved that they all got to interact with each other. And even Zoja, in a weird way, is kind of a new character because so much time has passed. And I actually really did love Paitha and how Paitha was used in the expansion, the initial expansion for Secrets of the Obscure.
Sure.
She was really the only character that had such a personal, constant connection with the commander. And because she was just a voice, it was all about kind of uncovering this mystery of this strange demonic figure that we find as Paitha. And there was that sense of mystery, but also her comments on the commander's personality and the emotions that we were going through. She was such a grounding part to the commander, I felt like, in a story that was where the commander was like a fish out of water, experiencing so many new people. So I loved having the ability to go back to Paitha and have those like conversations. And then when I look at Paitha in the after the initial expansion, the 3 patches, I almost feel like Paitha was a completely different character. I like to segment Paitha as like expansion Paitha and then patch Paitha, because after we end with the expansion, we go into Nyos. I feel like everything we knew about her kind of dissolved into this like very, very mission oriented person who didn't have a lot of character depth to that, and it was just like, oh, we're gonna go here and do this.
Wait. So you're talking about the mystery of Paitha was more enticing maybe than the actual witnessing of them, maybe? Like as a visual piece?
There was just more time to actually dissect and kind of understand what Paitha was doing.
Got it.
But then when we actually got into the motions of it, because of the scope and the limitations with these patches, they had to go very linear with her story. And there were moments which I loved because I was like, oh, that reminds me of the expansion Paitha. And I was like, oh, that's her being kind of weird and quirky and mysterious.
Absolutely.
But overall, my impression in those patches were like, they felt like they were written by like 2 different narrative people or 2 different scopes or 2 different umbrellas.
There was a very different vibe. Well, do you want to talk more about that? Like, you kind of started talking again, so it's your turn? Or is that your whole thing? I have the answer to the question, do you think?
That's kind of the answer to my question, but I did find that the characters for this particular type of expansion, I think it was courageous to introduce so many characters when you kind of go into it knowing you only have a year to tell the story. It was bold. It was highlighted. Did it ultimately work out? Not as well as it could have, but I do think that they have a lot of... They've laid the groundwork for these characters to pick up on their stories if they so choose to in future expansions. So I think ultimately I liked almost all the characters that we saw.
What about the whole story though?
The story as a whole, and my rating, I'd probably say like the base expansion, because I also like to segment them into 2 separate things. Base expansion, probably like a 23 out of 27. And then for the
Someone do the math in chat.
I think it comes out to like a B. It comes out to like a B, I think. Like an 85%. It was solid. It was very solid. But for the
in
actual...
England, that's an A.
Oh, well, y'all are just weird. I don't know about that.
No, we just don't expect that much.
It shows.
Oh, wow! I'm just 2 English people on the podcast. Wow.
God.
They just actually destroyed our souls.
I'm joking. But,
it's multiple emotional states coming out now. Oh my God.
But I find to be in agreement with Rook when it comes to the other patches as well. I find I would probably rank it like a 5 out of 10. Maybe.
Okay.
Because there were moments and there was build-up that I did enjoy, so I'm not going to limit myself from that, like, being excited for the potential. I think there was potential there that I was intrigued by, but ultimately it did end up kind of failing on the total payoff.
Fair. Is there anything else you want to say about the story? You think, we talked about it a lot last week, right?
It was...
You don't have to add anything. I'm not telling you to add.
I'd like to subtract, actually.
You'd like to...
Subtract some? Yeah.
I'll go back and edit it, yeah. Is that what you want to do?
I think that's kind of my overall TLDR impression of the expansion story and the characters.
And Rook, I'm very aware that maybe you didn't finish. Maybe if you wanted to
done.
add anything,
No,
you
I'm
were okay. Okay, good stuff. Ooh, Fornax.
Hello, darling.
Your Oh, Fornax. I enjoy you so much.
Oh dear.
We are live.
Gosh, I don't know what to say about that. Thank you. Remember
I
our safe word.
appreciate you as a person. It's gonna be okay. Tell us.
Okay.
Tell us.
So it's kind of funny because I don't know whether Rook and I are like telepathically connected in some capacity.
No
so
way.
my video is broken up into the Wizarding Tale and Naos. I gave the expansion 4 out of 5 stars, and I gave Naos 2 out of 5 stars. So I know it's a bit weird.
That's kind of technically higher than Rook, actually.
It is technically higher than
Rook.
It's kind of closer to my scoring.
It is kind of, it's kind of in the middle there, actually. Yeah.
I feel exactly so. Was I 100% like satisfied with the Wizarding Tale? No, I feel like the constraints and the budget that they had given over to this expansion showed from the off. I think there was a few disconnects from the story. I think there was far too few cutscenes. They desperately need them. And I feel like, as interesting and as clever as they were with the assets that they used, the lack of new assets, particularly with the Cryptus, was just crippling for any kind of storytelling. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be an ass, but if you want us to connect to characters, we have to be able to relate to them. And these Cryptus are so abstract and interesting, yes, but yeah, there's a reason that Paitha looks different, because we have to relate to her, and the others, they're just nebulous and it's not good. So I in terms of like story, the lion's share of it, and if I just spent £25 and got the Wizarding Tale and Naos was never part of the picture, I would have been fine. That would have been money well spent. I would have enjoyed myself. And I feel like the addition of Naos and the story, lack of any kind of story progression in Naos, lack of any kind of character progression. Actually, I feel like they kneecapped Paitha in the story. They did a disservice to her character. They diminished it.
That's a good way of putting it, actually. Kneecapped.
And now you have this like prologue addendum, which is casting a massive shadow over a really stellar first annual expansion. And you have the addendum, the kind of the brackets at the end of the parentheses, and it's just making everybody feel bad about the rest of it. And it's such a shitty situation for them to be in, and I feel so bad for them. But I'm so relieved that in the blog post they're like, yeah, we ran a bit off more than we could chew, and now we're gonna bring it down. And I think that they didn't have to have 17,000 characters. Isgarin was one of my favorite characters.
I think you're actually underplaying it. I think there was actually 24, but I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah. But they didn't. I think they. There's nothing wrong with having an ensemble cast, but I feel like when it comes to even just us as players, there's only so much attention that we have. There's only so much time that they have to tell these stories. And if they want us to be invested in the characters, they have to give us the time and time again. And this is not just in this expansion. This is a commonality going through. We have characters that introduced and then they're murdered off. They're murdering their darlings left, right, and center.
Sure.
And I know they're trying to do it for story progression and for drama, but you have to put in the work. You have to allow us to have connection with them, which means that we need more time before you string them up in front of us and, gut them Braveheart style, because otherwise we'll just be staring and trying not to get any on our shoes because we won't care, right? So that's a bit of a problem. Yeah. Sorry.
Just staring and
and what
that's the way you say
and
something
actually,
sometimes is very good. Go on,
sorry. And sorry, so And here's why there's a duality with Naos for me. So as much as I really don't like it, I don't like the map. I think it's repetitive. I think it's boring. It doesn't look like Realm of Dreams. I'm not particularly fond of the events happening on it. There's no connection to the story. The story is disjointed. It's all just bonkers. The ideas, the concepts, the kind of the intellectual side of it, the notions and ethos of it could have been fantastic, should be really an expansion of its own, with properly developed demonic characters, with a properly developed dreamscape, shifting landscape, taking us to the multiverse. We could piggyback on these monsters' brains and go and see all the different worlds. There's no development for them. There's no cultural development. There's no cultural connection. And they have this, like, I keep saying this, mile wide, inch deep ideas. And they just need to develop them more. They just need more time for development, more integration of the story, more connection between the events team and the people who are making the content on the ground for us to play with, and the story team, so that they can merge together and actually have the resources that they need to tell a full story.
We talked about that kind of disconnection, didn't we, a bit? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look at that timing. I realize that I'm kind of just introducing everyone and saying their points, and I'm not saying any of mine, so I'm going to say some brief things, not too much, and I am going to quickly jump into because you made a good point about the story and the fact that they are very aware of this, and it's very good. And I do want to read very quickly part of the blog post, which I thought was very important, especially because some of our viewers may not be looking at guildwars2.com. And yes, I think initial feedback from all of us is do a little video and just say all of this. That would also work. Okay, so what I wanted to start with was we introduced a lot of new characters, and the plot was too complex for what can be reasonably handled within an annual expansion. This left some character interactions feeling rushed and story threads unexplored, and I think that's the depth you're talking about right there, right? More isn't always better, which is very, very true. We learned a lot from this experience and have a much greater understanding of story scale with our new release structure. For our next expansion, we're going to tell more of a grounded story set in a new region of Tyria. So that, I think, is a very good idea. I actually think if you had even the next 2 or 3 expansions set in Tyria, that would actually be very good. Even core Tyria, like core, because we say core, don't we? With more of a focus on local threats and the global conversation around those threats. So it sounds a little bit maybe political. Interesting. Tyria, despite all its challenges, has continued to stir while we leave Nias and the Cryptus to enjoy their newfound freedom. The story will pick up on some threads started in Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure. So it sounds like we're going to be bringing a little bit of that last expansion with us back home, which is cool. So that's going to be interesting because no one knows what the F is going on. So that's a cool thing. So my thoughts generally on the story, Fornax, if you finished. Did you finish saying
absolutely.
what you wanted to say?
Yes, carry on.
It just mirrors really what everyone said and what we're kind of talking about in our last episode. I will link that because that has a lot of relevance in here as well. Is that the initial jump into Secrets of the Obscure, the story, was fantastic. And one of the best story instances we've ever had in the game was actually like the one with who's the first guy we fight on the circle, the plinth? Oh my god, Saris. Jesus, how can I forget his name? and then we're running from him through the corridor. Actually, there's a really good bit in the latest promotional video where Rookery is in that, where you're just like, yeah, this is really good, because you get this real feeling of being stalked and kind of preyed upon, and it's a really different. You don't get that anywhere else in Guild Wars 2 in the story in the past, as far as I remember. Like maybe some stuff in Ore, but like otherwise, there was very unique and it was very cool experience. And then getting into the expansion itself, which we'll talk about when we come to maps, was a little bit different. Now that was really cool, and obviously when I saw the dwarf, that was very cool. Like that was one of my highlights of the entire expansion. It was a cool way to be introduced to some of those characters, and then I was like, this is definitely a wicked cast so far. Like I'm loving the diversity in terms of races and ideas here, and then as you go on, I think, Fawn actually said it very well when you're talking about the depth of the cryptus, and I think they never really worked out what they were. Or if they did, they weren't able to tell us what they were because they just didn't have enough time. And that the actual visual expression of the cryptus was actually very indicative of how we perceived them, because they had a lot of gaps. There wasn't a lot of flesh to them. Like literally, like, do you understand what I mean? Like the depth to them just wasn't there. And it was very interesting how that really came through in their character design. And I'm wondering if that was almost intentional. I have no idea. It probably wasn't. I think if that is intentional, it's a bit odd. But it would make sense. But I didn't really care about anyone, I think, is the core thing I took from it. The only real people I cared about was Ramses, Lear, because he's a dwarf. That was very much the reason. And I wish they'd carried through some of these characters towards the end. But I was really hyped about seeing Zoja again. Like, I was, out of anyone, like, I swear, when Felicia Day was coming back, I was like, excellent, I'm in. This is going to be the best. And then Zoja kind of just didn't feel present most of the time. Other than like later on, I was just like, okay, well, I feel like they could have been used more. I don't know. And I know they were on their own journey, but I was just like, eh. And then it kind of ended. And the ending was good. I actually didn't mind the end. The last boss was good. But the way that they delivered that story is something that I don't think we have mentioned yet, is that if they're going to tell a story, that every single detail that they need to put in that hooks us in is in the story instance and not in the meta. And if they're gonna have the meta there, they need to direct us to it to say this is part of the experience. We have to have that connection. I think they've definitely learned that, I hope. And even if they just have that bit like that they did in End of Dragons, dang, we know. And I don't think people really complained about that much. As far as I remember, I don't think they really did.
About the meta?
Yeah, about like the fact that you had to. There was the note right in the top right hand corner, like you should do this like. Yeah, sorry, I may not have explained that correctly.
No, you're fine. I was just thinking. I think the only thing that people found perhaps that caused a bit of friction in End of Dragons with that was that the meta there at the end is it's pretty difficult, so it was wiping a lot, and a lot of people that maybe wanted to complete it for the story found that a little bit difficult. But again, it was the culmination and it wasn't required for the story. And I think if you went through and you saw all the meta and you maybe just failed with the DPS at the end, you still at least saw the whole story of that push and the context of it and the confrontation on the tower. And of course, it got easier over time as well as groups grew, more and more wise to what they needed to do to organize successful runs. So yeah, I didn't see that. Like, some people were mildly frustrated about it, but more so with some of the, difficulty curve. But it wasn't a thing where people were like furious about it because they had felt like this big piece of story was gone or inaccessible. And I have seen some feedback of folks who had the same experience that actually, like we were talking about last week, like Jeb, you'd had, Kroof, did you say that you had that problem too, where you didn't do it the first time?
No, me and Fornax.
Oh, it was Fornax. It was Fornax.
It was me. Yes, it was
very sad.
Yeah, so I saw people saying that was something that they'd had the same experience of, and that it had left a negative impression when they were going through the story.
I went through the meta the next day during our Summerfun, and I was like, this is really good. This is so good. And if it'd been in there, I actually would have been like, I would have rated it much higher. Like, I would have just, it was literally what I wanted in that space. It was so. Did you do it, Fornax, in the end?
Haven't done it yet.
You haven't done it yet? Oh, you've got to go do it. It's so good. It is genuinely very good. There's a little bit of pacing.
I am planning on doing it this weekend.
Okay.
Did you fail it?
No, I did it the first time. Yeah. We did it first time. It was, albeit it was in the middle of the day on a Saturday, and there was someone organizing it and groups. So it was very organized. But I could definitely see how it would fail. See how it would fail.
There's good story if you fail it.
I know. I remember you said, and I was like, I kind of wanted to fail, and then it didn't. But then I was like, I also want rewards. Okay, let's go on to the next. Oh yeah, and do I need to give a rating? I suppose I do, because you kind of all did.
Wait, considering its story, should I just say what the ending is if you fail it? It's like an alternate timeline.
I'm not fussed, but Fornax might be.
No, go for it. I'm too jaded now.
So if you fail it, it's also not canon, but I love that they went to that degree. If you fail it, usually bosses just like reset, you get kicked out or whatever.
Yeah.
In this, Paitha actually dies. She gets consumed by Eparch, and then Eparch eats us.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually very cool.
And then you kind of just teleport back to the base camp, and like it like didn't matter. But so I love that they at least entertained that for a conclusion of a meta if it fails.
Oh,
That's
man,
awesome.
But I guess
so
it's not
good.
canon, I guess.
That's so
Can
good.
I have a
Really cool. I love that.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
Can I have a final thought based off that? Because so I find it odd that they picked Paitha to have the prologue to the next story, because they're such unsympathetic characters. The cryptids are so unsympathetic. We've just watched them systematically murder Moban, torture our friends. We're like wading through the bodies of people who these things have eaten.
Yeah.
And now suddenly we're jumping to their defense. What on earth is happening? I wish there was some dialogue option where we go, no, you have to put, like, she has to, like, really persuade us, like, down on her knees begging for us to help her, because it's just, I'm with Isgaren. Your extinction is very unfortunate. Yeah, a sad day for you. Thou shalt not kill, but needs not strive officiously to keep alive. That would be my line. So, yeah. Anyway, sorry, that was my...
That's a good caps there. I will give you a quick rating because I feel like I should, because everyone has. And while separate as well, expansion story was. I'll go with like a 7 out of 10. I'll go with a 7 out of 10. I think it was good. I think it was good enough for me. I did enjoy it. I loved the fractal part. The fractal part was really, I do love that, because it gives them so many options in the future, especially if the Astral Vault come to Tyria, then maybe there's other people in different places, possible replayable race. But like, so there's a thing there. But then the rest of it, like, I was very disconnected, but it was still okay for me. I wasn't like majorly disappointed, because I think I've had some of these similar experiences. So like 5 out of 10. I was like, okay. It was okay. And that's probably generous. I think that's generous. I honestly do. But I don't think that for me in Guild Wars 2, the story is a lot of the reason why I enjoy and play the game. I think it's we're getting to the rest of it, which is the other major parts for me. I'm not saying that's not for everyone, but like, we are going to go to maps, and that's where I really enjoy Guild Wars 2 a lot, because I said this during the week when I had a discussion with someone called Jess, who's really awesome. She writes articles for different publications and websites, actually been an awesome member of our own stream community as well as others. We had a good conversation, and there was some critique about Guild Wars 2 and not wanting to come back. And I was like, Guild Wars 2 is literally the smallest studio in the like top 10 MMO lists, probably. Like, it's probably one of the smallest studios, and everyone compares it to ESO, Warcraft, and Destiny 2 and things like that. And I'm like, that's not fair. That is just not fair. They are so much smaller and such an incredible scale. You have no idea. And it's just like, the maps, they absolutely it on other fucking MMORPGs. In my opinion, they just do. Even in World of Warcraft, say in its expansion, I was like, this is okay, but it's not like the best, It's not got all the depth to it. It's not got these little bits and pieces, like even these story bites and like bits and bobs. I really enjoy most of the maps in Guild Wars 2, but Secrets of the Obscure was a bit different. And I think we're gonna talk about that. So first of all, we're thinking about, we've got the Horn of Maguma, which is the region. We've got Skywatch Archipelago, which is the first map we come in to, and maybe we'll talk about that first. And then we've got the Wizard's Tower Hub, which is actually counted as a map, as content, because even though it's a hub, it's still counted as like an actual map. Where we do events, etc., etc. And then we've got Amnitas, which was the final map in the expansion. And then we've got the other region called Nios, which has got Inner Nios in it. And as far as we know, is the only part of Nios, which is kind of odd. Because why call it Inner Nios at all?
Maybe there's an outer.
It must be, because why call it Inner?
Is it an innie or an outie?
Exactly, that's where I was going with that. So, Kroof, coming to the expansion, Skywatch Archipelago. Now, you can put all of the expansion maps together if you want, or you can talk about them individually. What were your impressions of them? Did you enjoy them?
So, Skywatch Archipelago, I really liked it. I found the idea of fractals to be very strange but smart from a development perspective, because you could reuse plenty of assets but configure them in a new way. So I kind of saw that, but it also gave them an ability to kind of showcase these areas in Guild Wars 2 that we have known for quite some time, but frame them in a different quote-unquote storyline. So even then it was a bit new and it felt fresh enough. And it was very disconnected, mostly because a major mastery part for this expansion was the Sky Scale, which is one of the flying mounts in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
So I understood that. I don't particularly love to traverse maps where they are heavily broken up, and especially at various altitudes. I find it can just be a little bit difficult to just get around or sightsee sometimes, and it can kind of feel small in a way, because it's more so pockets rather than this broad, sprawling desert or mountain range, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I did love how because they're fractals, they were able to tell very concentrated storylines in each of the islands that were very well constructed. The dynamic events flowed very well. They had storylines to them. And then you also had the Astral Ward remarking on those fractal storylines, talking about the morality, the ambiguous gray areas of what this all means, what they're going to do afterwards. And in terms of exploration, it was pretty fine. It was pretty nice. Once you furthered the mastery lines in this expansion, you could go even further up top to where there were actual Astral Ward structures and pylons of various wizards. And there was some more lore tidbits to get there. So I found Skywatch to be okay. But I really loved Amnitas. Amnitas was really beautiful. I liked that this was the collegiate center place for the wizards. This was their hub where they do all the studying. It was maybe a little bit, samey in terms of the architecture, but hey, they're wizards. They're not architects and designers. So it was, I think they used the assets well enough to differentiate the different islands.
Yeah.
And I loved the world spire in the center. That massive structure was really beautiful, and you get to the top of it where the meta event takes place, and it's all very beautiful and pretty and clean. So I ended up liking the maps. I thought they were all pretty okay. Skywatch Archipelago felt a little disjointed, and I kind of had the same sentiment when we got to Nios because of the way that it was released and the environment structure. It felt a little, 1 chunk, 2 chunk, 3 chunk, 1 fish, blue fish, 2 fish, 3 fish, 4 fish. Sam, I am.
I enjoy the way you put that there. Okay. Are you done? Should we move to someone else? Are you good on the maps?
I feel like I should have a buzzer. I'm and I'm done. It's
no, I just want to make sure you don't have any, in case you have any more general points. This is going to be very much, this is a summing up podcast as well. There's not much. We can definitely come into these discussion parts about, for sure. I just found your video on Guild Wars 2 in 2024, and so I'm using the Skywatch and different things as a good backdrop for this. So I was like, yes, there's got to be a place where I can find some good stuff. Actually, never seen that bit before. Okay, fine. It's dangerous when there's video on the background because I'm like, ooh, that's cool. Rook, how about you? What do you feel about how did you feel about the maps and whatnot?
First two maps were, I thought they communicated what they needed to well. I thought they also pushed the features like the sky scale and flying mounts, and that it gave you an opportunity, even though there was a little bit of a kind of learning curve or mastery curve that could be a little bit frustrating at first, especially with that opening map having such huge differences in the elevations and things. It was a little rough to navigate before you had some of those other upgrades, or if you're just bad at using the Griffin like I am. So, you know, I found that to be a little bit spicy, but I thought it showed a really good example of how you can have horizontal progression that, again, gives you a sense of accomplishment in the world that is tangible and that you experience as players, because as you got better and as you got those masteries, and especially as you got the updraft mastery for mounts, it really did make it feel like, I really have taken to the skies, right? And I've put time into it. So I think all of that was really successful, and I like to see them featuring unique mobilities, unique mounts, stuff like that on maps. So all of that I felt was really immersive. With the reused assets on the first map, I mean, Kroof, like you were saying, I thought it was clever, and it still gave us some interesting alternate timelines or peeks at various historical things we'd heard about, but that had been preserved in some way. I think that, you know, they could have pushed even further into some of those little narratives, but a lot of what we got was still really good.
Yes.
And, you know, a lot of what you could even learn more about back in the sort of main Wizards hub and stuff. There were a lot of great lore tidbits and all kinds of things there. So I thought that was great. And I also thought Amnitus has a great meta. Even if, you know, sometimes you get the complaint about big open spaces and how they can feel kind of empty in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
But that doesn't usually bother me as much as it does a lot of people, because I feel like it still gives you a grand fantasy scale and a spectacle. And for me, Amnitus really hit that, and I loved all the different areas and the different areas of study and the way that you kind of organically learn about those different factions and schools of study. I think it would have been even cool to have some stuff there about like how people outside of just the Astral Ward get brought into these, and what those areas of study are, and why they're researching. But I think it still gives you a really good impression of the areas, and has some environmental storytelling. And the meta itself, I think, is one of the largest scale spectacles of the expansion, right? It has that huge boss, even if fighting him is a little bit, you know, kind of like phase gimmicky kind of stuff. But it's this big culmination of this thing that's been poking through all these portals and that you've seen. And I thought that was really, really cool. I thought that demon was going to come back and play a role, because it seemed like we hadn't fully killed him. We had just kind of like blocked them out. So I was surprised when we didn't see that. But I think the map is really cool in how it does that. And unfortunately, Nios, I think, has an interesting theme to it. But I think, as everybody said, the three parts, and even as they acknowledged in that blog post, the three parts of it was a little too much. And especially because those parts just lacked a lot of detail. Like, if we're going to be on one map for all of the rest of an expansion, I'd really like to see those areas have a lot of interesting things, nooks and crannies, diversity of building, structure, landscape, nature. When you compare it to the End of Dragons maps and how many just really cool little things were on those maps. I mean, I love it. Seitong's one of my favorite maps in all of Guild Wars 2. And I could just I could do so many things on that. I was like, oh, there's this whole other bonus thing. There's this dungeon. There are these bosses that we can do. There's, you know, the maze. There's this, you know, and the meta and this other stuff. So I spent a lot of time, even on stream, just exploring that map or doing all the bonus content on the other maps. And I feel like Nios in particular really lost a lot of those details. And I like the meta and the culmination of the meta, but I think Nios as a whole, especially for 3 portions of a map and for a dreamscape realm made, you know, influenced in some intangible way that demons inhabit, it just felt like it really didn't communicate a story or culture or history or fantasy as thoroughly as it could have. So those are my thoughts on our maps, but
No, there's a lot of good points there. It's that Nios, isn't it? Because I think someone said in one of the comments on last week's video, everyone who commented on last week's episode, by the way, thank you very much. Some really good thoughts. And also, like, some people who are a little bit unkind. I don't appreciate that. You will be removed. About ArenaNet, more specifically. They said that there wasn't a jump puzzle on there or anything. Like which is like a core kind of Guild Wars 2 thing. Like, even in I'm not sure about like Ender Dragons, but there was definitely like smaller like instances and dungeons of, especially with was it Vosberg? I can't remember. The armory, was the armory for Vosberg? And there was a little mini puzzle in there and jumping about, which
Mini
was very
dungeons.
Cool. Exactly, like those, mini dungeons. So there wasn't really anything like that. It was it did feel very empty. Really good points. Fornax, your thoughts about the maps?
Yeah, I mean, you could feel that. So I preface this with that I love the maps of Guild Wars 2. I really do. I think they're some of the best. I think they're some of the most interesting. They do some of the best storytelling, environmental storytelling. They have all sorts of interesting places that I will discover things still after playing for so long. Places I've never been, little nooks and crannies that are just delightful or interesting. And with the change in production scale and production time, that detail, that artisanal map detail, seems to have diminished. And I feel like, I hope that, should I say, that going into the next expansion, we get more of that beautiful, highly polished gem of a map back. Because I feel like, yes, they're big, yes, they're sprawling, but they felt a bit echoey to me. They felt a bit like, someone needs to put the curtains up here because I can. It's not. I don't know. It felt like I was rattling around in them when I was not flying into walls, of course. So I'm not fantastic on my Sky. I also kind of sad that the other mounts are just in the wind. And maybe that's just with this expansion, because I love the other mounts. I think they're so beautiful, and there's been so much of a push for the Sky Scale, and there's nothing wrong. He's a good boy. We all love the Sky Scale. He's a good lad. But I feel like the other mounts are so lovely and and you can build such interesting maps around them. I just hope that there's more diversity. I feel like everything was kind of so constrained, so one track, and it coming from the other content that we've had in the past, it's a real readjustment period. There's just, I think we need more diversity. They need what smaller scope, more detail. I feel like is what needs to happen, because I was blown away by the End of Dragon maps. Yeah, they were just beautiful, and I wanted to be in them, and I wanted to explore them even outside the story. And I'm there for the story. That's my bag, right? But I wanted to explore them. These maps, I haven't. If there was not a purpose, if there was not something driving me, like a collection or something like that, I didn't find myself wanting to wander. And also, because of how they set them up, there isn't very many places you can just sit your ass down and enjoy the view. There's not, unless you're like perched on top of something very high. But you know what I mean? It's nice to just be able to sit. I remember wandering around the city, and you have these beautiful gardens, and there's stuff happening in it around, but you can just wander and be in the place. And I feel like there's a bit of that lost. And I really don't think that they should count the Wizard's Tower as a map. It ain't. That's a hub city. You've made a nice hub city. It's a lovely hub city. Let's not be mean. But we got 3 maps. Yeah. We got 3 active maps, and one of them was too small, and just it's it's an embryonic map. It's not a fully fledged map in
It's
Naos.
more like a Lion's Arch with a couple of adventures in it, because it's not, because even Lion's Arch had like jumping puzzles and like area things where you had to get like, you know, Mordry, or not Mordry, the other one, is it Mordry? No, the thing. Oh god,
The cargo.
yes, yeah. Where you had to find or do bits of that and whatever that.
Yeah, I mean, why isn't there all sorts of weird jumping puzzles in the Wizard's Tower? Why, if it is a main map, where are the weird things in there? There's like one event where you like down under the city where you can do where you're kind of like obstacle. It's like an obstacle course to get from one side to another, which is quite fun. But it's just we just seem to be missing a lot of things that we've not. Maybe we've just been spoilt rotten.
Maybe
by other awesome content.
But like, if you're going to create these things, you need to keep the consistency, right? Because there's an expectation, and it's not like it was just this one time that it happened. It's like there's a lot of that in all of the past maps. And I think, you know, Rookery said it last week when it was talking about like Drizzlewood Coast and the other maps like that with the meta and stuff, and it's like, you know, having those 2-section maps and like having that as more of a thing rather than the 3, and how impactful that was and how many people like going back, and you know, that was kind of like a good point from last time. Is there anything else you want to say for next at all, or?
I mean, I feel like people will accept a smaller expansion for a smaller price, but I feel like people will not accept a kind of a drop in the quality of the experience, and I feel like they just haven't got the balance right yet. I feel like they haven't been able to rein in the scope to give the quality that we deserve for the size that they can manage.
Fair.
I wonder if next expansion we're going to be like, there's not enough scope.
I know, it's too small now.
It's gonna be like the other. We're gonna be like, no, we just did like one expansion with one character.
That's right. Okay. My thoughts very quickly, pretty much the same as what everyone said. The Wizard's Tower, I agree. Not really a map. So yeah, I agree. We got like 3. I mean, it's technically a map, but it's not like a map. In a Nios, I do like the events. I think the events, there's a lot of events going on all of the time. And I do like how they kind of try to flesh out some of the population that's kind of just like the citizens of Nios, I guess. Like I do enjoy that. And then I guess the metas are pretty good. I don't think any of them on that. I think, you know, we've not really said much about the metas on the map. I think so I'll talk more about that. So I felt they were really good on Nios. I actually think they were good on every map. I think Rooker is right. I would like to have seen the culmination of what happened to that being. I think there was another character that didn't get fleshed out, like that we would have liked to, like, you know, no pun intended, like, you know. Because we didn't. I actually felt, when I first saw it, I thought it was like Epoch and this was part of him or something. And I was like, I really thought that was going to be like, he was just going to return later. But then I was like, oh yeah, it's not actually him at all. They felt more like the end boss of the game than Epoch did. Does that make sense? Like, it just felt so dominant. You don't think so, Griff?
No, that was just a statement. That was a statement.
But it was just like, but that doesn't. But
which I agree with. It was
okay.
Well, I guess I will say the Eparch meta event. It is pretty.
Oh yeah, the
cinematic.
Yes, that part. Yes, sorry, I was thinking more
but
about
from
like
the main
story
expansion, the main story. Yeah, that one definitely had a much more. It's also we got to see it first. And we had so much more time with it. So it was like kind of our expectation of what these demons would be. And so when we had to wait so long, and then because Eparch was the very final patch, it was the first and the second patch where we're kind of just slowly crawling along, which is then killing our kind of vibe. It's not passing the vibe check. It's getting a little, you know, more and more desperate. to see what the
Yeah.
final fight is actually going to be. But they kind of surprised us, I would say, with Eparch's final form, because we had no idea what he would end up looking like, other than when he first appeared in his more humanoid
Yes.
form.
The human, so I'm talking definitely about the more human, because I agree with you on the metaphor part. Like, if you don't do and you don't do that, it's not part of the story, which is what I didn't do. Like that was my expectation, because like what we were talking about earlier with like the base, because again, I guess that meta in Amnesty was it was the core game, right? Like, it didn't come later, like it was the expansion, right? So again, like it's like boom, there's all this big stuff happening and big story and big moments, and then like Eparch is there when he appears and stuff. And it's like that was that comparison. I think that's maybe one of the reasons why we maybe felt that, like you're saying, like the vibe check, I guess, like they really set the scene so high for us with expectations, and then it kind of just went down. So like we really did get a good impactful part of an expansion, but it was the beginning, and the real success of like is to have the consistency. It doesn't necessarily have to be way up here. It can start in the middle, as long as it continues that way and doesn't go down. Do you know what I mean? Like it's so right.
Yeah.
It's so right. And I think that is, probably what happened for most of the features in the expansion, actually, honestly. Okay, I'm also, when we came into the expansion map, like the first map with the story or whatever, it just wasn't really blown away like I was with End of Dragons. Sure, it was Camphor, maybe that had something to do with it. But it just felt a bit weird. Like it was the initial kind of getting into the map. It was like, Secrets of the Obscure. It didn't give me the awe that I did of other expansions, I guess. Okay. Any other comments on the maps? We get.
I'm just after you talking about Herbert or Norris. Herbert, I call him Herbert because he's rather lovely.
I'm going to be 2
the
seconds.
tentacle monster.
Keep talking. I've got a phone call I have to take. I'll grab it.
I'm so sad that we didn't see Herbert in one of the convergences, or that he wasn't the second to the penultimate boss on Naos, because I would have much rather fought him again than a Wyvern. Because he's just a lovely tentacle monster. I mean, who doesn't want to fight one of those all the time? Poor Herbert.
We do see very small, like infantile eyes of Norris when you're like venturing down one of the towers in the final part of the meta. So that, I mean, it leads me to believe, like, what are these creatures? Are these his pets? Are these like, these are Cryptus, but like, what's the storyline going on with the Eye of Norris? Is that the mother? Is that the big mama one that's, creating all these smaller watchlings? So I think that was another character that was missed out on, because we didn't actually kill the Eye of Norris in Omnitas. It retreated back. So that thing is probably still out there. Maybe it'll pop up again and Paitha will kind of wrangle it and be like, you're on our side now. Come on, buddy.
That would have been cool to see her like be able to turn the tables, where if she could actually defeat it, or if she was able to subdue it, or whatever it is, it would like grant her and all of us access to the eyes all over, and like you'd be able to kind of like spy throughout, the realm of dreams, or try to get the lay of the land of what was happening. Like that could have been a really cool plot point.
Yeah, scouting and subterfuge.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Because maybe that was like one of the first creatures that he subjugated or somehow managed to like use in this web that he made to secure his power. I don't know. There's a lot of cool things that we could have learned about it for sure.
We need a campaign to free Herbert and bring him over to our side. We do. He's such a sweetie.
He's a little big though. It's a little big.
I know, but he's a gold mine for any opticians out there. I mean, come on.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, just a gold mine.
I would not want to be the eye drop supplier though. His eyes are red and inflamed, and I don't know if he's blinking enough.
Look,
I think he was on the lash the night before, so he's just like super hungover.
Just more proof that Eparch was not taking good care of this beautiful boy or creature or mom or whatever they are.
No.
Yeah.
and
Free the
true.
with
mythical
us.
monster. Yeah.
Yeah, free them. Let them be free.
But honestly, I
Honestly-
love its design though. It's
Oh, yeah.
it's pretty unique. It's like this wiggle. It's one of the more unique Cryptus models because we only see it like a handful of times.
That's right.
I'm gonna say I'm with Rook. I think that we should have actually we're trying to ally people in the story of Naos to our side to fight the Midnight King. Why didn't we try to recruit him? It could have been a weird storyline. That would have been amazing.
Yeah,
Oh, so
it's often
sad.
it's not even, and then you could have had a storyline where it's not in inner Nios, it's like off in some other dream realm in Nios, and it has its own like tentacly like domain that it's kind of overseeing, and then you could have like transported over there somehow, and there was this is what the opportunities with all the character Cryptus that were introduced.
Yeah.
That reminds me of
Yeah.
the World of Warcraft storyline. What is it called where you go to the jailer? What was that expansion?
Shadowlands.
Shadowlands.
Shadowlands, yeah.
And you're working with who's the guy who's trapped there, and you have to like break his chains and stuff. He's like the rune. He's a
The
big
Rune
giant
Master.
guy. Yeah.
Mm.
And like that storyline, I don't know why that popped into my head. I know it wasn't like he was just trapped there, but I like that kind of side storyline, like trying to get like power, like to kind of fight the jailer and stuff. I don't know why that pops into my head. I'm not sure if it's relevant, but it just pops into my head. So I don't know.
I love
Weird
it.
thing.
You're right.
Yeah, it was. I actually really enjoyed that story in Shadowlands. I actually didn't mind parts of Shadowlands, but then I started to play. Then I completed it, and then I was just like, "This is banging on for way too long, mate. Like, we need to end this shit. Let's end it, please." And then you go to that new place, and I'm just like, "Why does this map even exist?" Anyway, sorry, I have thoughts and feelings. Next, combat features. Weapon Master Training, which was huge deal, a massive deal. It was the weapons for your elite specializations being able to be used on your other whatever damn build you want. They weren't elite specialization tied. So Guardian, Axe, Sword, Longbow, Revenant, Shield, Greatsword and Shortbow, Warrior, Dagger, Pistol, Torch. They could use them in whatever you wanted. You could use your Engineers, Mace, wherever you wanted. Because then I just didn't, and then I could use something else with a damn shield. And a sword as well. And like Ranger got Dagger and Hammer, and then Thief got Scepter, Rifle and Staff, and Elementalist got Sword, Warhorn, Hammer, etc., etc. This was good, right? This was a really cool. I'm not sure how much we're going to talk about, but it was just more options, right? But this is just in general, right? Like you don't. Do you have to? This is the thing I didn't go and look up, and I forgot to. Is this just in Secrets of the Obscure though?
I think so.
I think we've had this conversation. I've asked this question multiple times. I'm
Yes.
pretty sure you
Yes.
have to have it to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
You only get to freely brandish your weapon if you have Secrets of the Obscure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, Phoenix.
I wonder if they'll change
It's okay.
that in the future.
I'm here all week.
I think they'll. I think they'll add it in the next expansion, maybe. There's like if you have the expansion, then you can also get the weapons training, just in case you
Yeah.
don't want to play it.
I do find it strange that it was a Secrets of the Obscure exclusive update. I feel like it should have just
Yeah.
been like a normal system update.
Agreed. I think it should have been as well, especially because there's so many other expansions before, and you've already
Yeah.
got your elite specializations. It felt really odd that was a thing, but I think the reason why they did is because they wanted to tie it in as a feature, and that was like
Yeah.
another thing they kind of added. And I think it was a bit naughty, honestly. And I'll tie in the expanded weapon proficiency, and if people want to talk about this, they're more than welcome to. We also got new weapon for every class. Guardian got pistols, Revenant got Scepter, Warrior got Staff. Love that stuff, one of my faves. Engineer got short bow, which I'm starting to really enjoy now. Ranger got mace, which is very cool. Thief axe is a thing. Elementalist pistol I haven't touched personally. Mesmer rifle is wild and very interesting. Necromancer got sword, which is very fun. general thoughts on this kind of combat stuff that got added over the course of well, it was very early, right? It wasn't like later. It was pretty much the expansion, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was nice to have more options. I had a lot of fun messing around with certain weapons and certain builds, but after a while you kind of start to realize which weapons work best for which type of build and which role you're playing, which I think is totally normal, but you can still go off and do some fun and wild stuff. And when it comes to the new weapons added, they were okay. I think by and large, most of them don't really see a whole lot of play. There were certain elements also that I feel like they weren't finished, like the guardian symbol not being unique, or just some little small touches here and there with like either audio or visual representation of spell effects, or actual skill animations that left me wanting a bit more.
Right.
But there were standouts like the warrior staff. I think they really showed that weapon a lot of love, because there were even new animations that came in with the staff, and they really nailed it. So there were a couple weapons that carried in that department, but I feel like next expansion, with whatever new weapons they're giving to the classes, I hope they're, maybe a little bit more thought. I don't say more thought out, because I feel like there were some weapons like Ellie Pistol which were maybe too thought out, because then you had this whole like juggling elements mini game again that Elementalist has now had for the past 3 expansions, so maybe we can like change it up a little bit. So I think that just don't think, just make a very streamlined kit, just very, very point blank.
That's
to the point.
difficult with Elementalist though, isn't it?
It's not though.
You don't think so?
It's not.
Isn't every weapon like that for Elementalist though?
No, staff is like very much fire, big burst, crit damage.
Though, right?
Well, I mean, like it's still like whatever that type of attunement is, just kind of stick with that. But then I feel like
you don't have the third weapon crossover, like third skill crossover.
Third skill crossover.
Yeah. Like don't
What do you
have
mean?
it. Do you mean don't have that as to make it more
No,
streamlined?
I just mean like in terms of the mini games that they want the Elementalist to go with.
Oh, okay,
like with Weaver, your mini game was mixing the elements. With Catalyst, it was being in the proper orb and always changing your attunement to then pop into that orb, which also tied into your utility skills.
Yeah.
And then with the pistol, it was you're collecting these bullets, which you then have to then cycle through the different attunements to then use.
Oh god, that's giving me a headache if I think about it.
The past 3 Elementalist expansions or extensions to their class has always been about cycling through things very quickly.
That's very true.
Or just like camping in one thing, and I just sometimes I feel like it's a little unnecessary, and I would much rather just have like a weapon that adds new visuals, a new build type, like condition or strike or healing or self-sustain, and it kind of just goes with that line of thinking.
Yeah, that makes sense. True. But you enjoyed the Warriors stuff. I mean, I know we were talking a lot about Warrior. I'm showing one of your videos where you rated all of the different weapons, I believe, as far as I remember.
Yeah, there were some things like Mesmer Rifle where a lot of the animations were just reused animation or spell effects, I should say, visuals. So yeah, I think there were some things with these weapons where I felt like they cut corners where in other elite specialization packages they did not. And with elite specialization packages, you also had the new profession mechanic, utility skills, and trait lines. So I feel like if you're just going to be doing weapons, really give it 110%.
Which is what kind of like with the mace on Ranger and like like the staff and Warrior, like you said, like really impactful, and then. Yeah, those are the real ones which kind of stick out to me. Not really much else, I guess, maybe. Engineer, short bow, most people disliked. But I think they're starting to enjoy now because they're starting to see how good it is. So, Rook and Fornex, anything you want to add on the weapons stuff?
I'm a basic bitch. I like simple.
Yeah.
Like no fuss, no muss builds. I like straightforward stuff. There's a lot of complexity in Guild Wars 2 in their combat. Press button, number go up. That's my speed.
That'll do for you. Okay. That's fair.
And I actually,
That's fair.
I've been doing a lot of healing in other games, and I kind of miss the I didn't realize how much I miss the simplicity of just, playing the synthesizer game with people's health. That's kind of nice and relaxing, and you just let everyone else get on with the mechanics. So yeah, no, please allow there to be some very simple, basic bitch builds to so that people who are hard of thinking, like this idiot, can just
Good Lord, no
do
self-deprecation.
things. So yeah, please make simple for me. Thank you. Okay. Yes.
Right.
I don't have much to add. Yeah, I haven't really messed around with them all that much. What I've heard from folks seems to be positive. Generally, right? I think, yes, maybe some of them could have been a little bit more robust, like Kroof was saying. But that others have been really glad that they've gotten certain things from those weapons, like with Warrior Staff, or that they didn't have before. And I think even touching base on being able to play and use elite spec weapons now outside of the elite specs, I think that's another thing that is a nice touch. It would have been, I agree, it would have been nice, and I think a good addition to the game generally to kind of just implement that as a thing. But I also understand that they seem to want it to be kind of a part of the progression of how you move through the game and evolve with your elite specs and open up new options. So in that sense, tying it to Secrets of the Obscure might even be more of an organic way to help players going through it for the first time, not get super overwhelmed suddenly by having a whole new weapon and all sorts of other things on top of elite spec unlocks and all kinds of other stuff. So maybe it's just something that kind of builds out more of a progression through how you play and what tools you have at your disposal. But I mean, I'm sure down the road, people are going to look that up and be like, but I want this build with this thing that I'm supposed to be able to use, and then find that if they don't have Secrets of the Obscure yet, they're going to have to get it. So, I think there's pros and cons to it, but I think overall, these were good additions, and I think that having both of them did help provide something in place of brand new elite specs, and it did give us something on that gameplay front and class front that is needed with an expansion without having to necessarily commit to making all new elite specs and balancing all around those and everything else. So I thought this was a really nice feature and a good way to kind of bridge the gap until we get more elite specs in the future, maybe.
Nice. Just appreciating Proof's tier list here of it's not S tier, A tier, etc. It's no crumbs, chewed, push the plate away, and just nothing. The bottom it's just like nothing. There's not even a title there. There's like no
Oh, that's just where all the icons were sitting.
Oh, is that where all the icons? Sorry. Okay, that was all right. Cool. Okay, that's my bad. I'll take that. That's fine. Okay.
Look, I don't know why I placed Elementalist so high. I don't know what my brain was going through. I was really loving Ellie Pistol.
I think it was initial hype level, maybe.
I think so.
Right?
I think so.
I mean, you were. I think you were pretty. I mean, and also it's also very subjective to your own opinion, right? Like
No, I used science. I used math. I used algebra.
No, it is not my opinion. It is fact, Jebro.
Okay.
It's fact. I asked my mom, and she agreed.
You are sure.
I'm going to have to tell my husband that the grand arbiter of reality job has just been taken by you and not him. He's going to be very disappointed.
You know what? It's a hard job to have with very little pay. I'll say that.
Well, he's okay. He's still the High Lord pedant, so he'll be fine. It's okay.
Yes, I don't want that position. I don't.
Good.
Nobody wants that position.
Generally enjoy the fact that this was a thing. I think, they always were going to have an issue with trying to replace or balance the idea of not having elite specializations, because that was a huge feature of expansions in the past. Like, one of the main reasons people were bought an expansion was elite specializations. No matter how you cut it, that's one of the main reasons. That's one of the main reasons for World v World people in PvP that don't even play the mode. You know, even the maps and stuff. It's just true. So.
Oh, they didn't get any maps, did they? So what are they buying? I mean, come on.
Okay, well, there you go. Exactly. Even better point. So they need to really cater to the combat crowd, right? And I think this was really, really solid. I think the weapons, like, you know, there was definitely some concerns. I think going forward, we're going to see some changes. We're going to see some adjustments. We've seen a lot of balance with some of these. Some of these have improved vastly. Like, Engineer's short bow is a lot better you can basically understand it. You don't have to run the numbers all the time. And it did feel like a little bit convoluted, even though I enjoyed the initial way it was used, because you had to trigger things more. It's more of like, it's just like, yeah, you can just kind of pile things up, and it just actually makes sense and more fun to play as the game to like, as the moment to moment gameplay in terms of like shortbow for engineer is a bit more fun with that. Whereas I was kind of standing around like thinking, which one should I use now? Before, in the previous iteration anyway.
I would love them to entertain aggro management and tanking more in PvE as well.
Yes.
I feel like that's another realm of gameplay that they haven't touched into or tapped into. And like certain effects like Jealous, like providing an even stronger level of protection by reducing damage by 50%. There are certain skills that do that, and I feel like they were trying to go down that path during Heart of Thorns with like Taunt, and then they completely abandoned it. And I just, there's another aspect to this that I think could be interesting. And even with relics, there are a couple relics which I find to be really fun. I'm using on a couple of my characters, where you take the damage your other allies are taking and put it onto yourself as like a really interesting like tanking play style. And you only want to use that in open world, because you don't have much of a reason to use it in PvE content like dungeons, fractals, and raids.
Yeah.
But I feel like if they played a little bit more into that, maybe something could open up and add just another flavor to the gameplay that we've all just been very used to over the past few years.
Oh, you may get that with the next extension. You never know.
I hope so. A little more entertaining of taunt and aggro stuff.
Nice.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that every other game uses the Holy Trinity. Come on.
Yeah.
It's so diverse. You can make such brilliant content. It gives people defined roles and purpose, and it's kind of weird. You have agency over who is tanking. I've been in groups where I've got my Giver's armor on, and I've forgotten to change it, and suddenly, I'm tanking the boss now. Hey, let's go. So yeah, it's a bit crazy. Yeah, it was a brown trousers. It was a brown alert. Yes, it was.
You
not
said
good.
no,
So,
not me.
Well, all of a sudden you become a very, very you become a tank expert, and that's the way it is. Okay. We're gonna hammer on. We're gonna hammer on because we're getting on time wise. Other combat features. I just added. Yes, Ranger got some new pets, because that actually is actually really important.
That.
Like, it's important, right? Like, it's so important. Like, to remember all of these little things adding up to the expansion. Like, they did get a new pet. Like, because they would have just missed that otherwise. And it's not just one; it's 3 very unique, specific pets aligned with the expansion. Really good. Really glad they got that.
I love that we can actually get the Spine Gazer. We have a Cryptus pet now, which is just really cool.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was the pet you got. So now I'm like,
it's really good. It's a Connie pet. I'm using it on my Soul Beast. It's really fun.
Nice. Cool.
It's a ranged pet too.
Is it the laser beam out of the eye thing?
It's the big eyeball, and its spine like curves up.
Oh yeah. But like, is it the laser beam that comes out of their eye?
Yeah. And it throws Cryptus orbs at people.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm so confused.
I
I thought
love
all
it.
so you got like a sentient pet. You had like a sapient.
That's what
like,
I'm talking about. I wish it would
Wow.
talk to you. But then
That would
there's
be
some
cool.
Cryptus that don't talk. So I'm like, maybe we got just a lower intelligence Cryptus. I don't know.
Feels like a more of
Yeah.
a sentinel, doesn't it, than anything else? Like a little turret that runs around. That's what I kind
I
of
wish
like
it would
the,
make noises though. Be like,
Oh, that'd be so good. Like, do cryptids have an equivalent of animals? Like,
yeah.
are there cryptids that have partaken in animal dreams and
Do
like have that aren't sentient as a
That's a
result
good
or
point.
something?
Yeah.
Or
They're just
if
now.
only we just spent
animals?
9 months in grip in Naos. Maybe we'd all know.
don't say that to me. That
I
hurts
know.
me so much
I
when
don't
you
wanna
phrase
go.
it like that.
I mean, it's like when your mom and dad take you somewhere you really don't want to go, and you're a kid, and just like, no, I'm good, thanks. And I was like, no, we're forcing you. We're taking you to the crypto zoo. Okay,
It's
next
Knowsley
bit.
Safari Park for me. God, that was a boring day. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
Wait, where?
Yeah. Knowsley Safari
Oh,
Park.
I don't know. That one.
Knowsley.
I don't know.
Oh.
Sounds awful.
Mm.
Mounts.
It's not good.
We didn't get new mounts, but we did get Oh, actually, thinking about the combat quickly, we did get balance patches, which were, I'm not sure if they were more frequent, but we did get them in, you know, they happened every, 6 months, 3 months? I can't remember. 3 months?
So sorry. What did you say?
How many updates, like their balance updates?
Oh yeah,
sorry.
every 3 months. Yeah,
Every
yeah.
3 months? Sorry, I spoke through that very quickly.
I was looking at the wiki. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So that was something
You're on
else.
Tinder again, aren't
Is
you?
it
We
what?
can see, we can tell. That's why you got your guns out, darling. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mounts. Skyscale was free as long as you unlocked it in the expansion. Well, technically not free, but like, you know, you could unlock it in the expansion, which was very, very cool. And I think Raptor was free. Became free or something like that, it says. I'm pretty sure you have, because you gained access to the Raptor through this expansion. You didn't need to. Yeah. You got access to the Raptor. Yeah. That was it.
Because I feel like gliding and the Raptor mount are kind of just baselines for all expansions now.
Yeah.
I think it was a thing with this because it's this feature on the wiki, and I'm like, okay.
It
'Cause
also
it
came
was-
with End of Dragons as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
it
it was, and it was in the new player experience in 2022, and then you could get it if you had the base game. Yeah. So maybe that's just. I'm not sure why that's there then. Okay, I'll just copy that over. Anyway, so we got.
Flying triangle, yes. I just want to. The Spine Gazer as a Necromancer minion pet, or just like some of these
that would be
models
cool.
as Necromancer minions. I just wanted to give you a quick shout out. That's good.
That would be
Oh,
cool.
that'd be
actually.
nice.
That would be cool.
I'm kind of confused and scared by the comment in the chat. Does it give milk though? What are you talking about? I've read up. I can't see the context.
It's like
I'm
a
kinda
Cal
scared.
Cryptus.
What are we
Cal
talking-
Cryptus. He's replying to Mandela.
Oh, okay.
He's replying to
Oh,
Mandela.
that was
It's
so much
okay.
better than I was expecting.
It's
Okay, no,
not,
fine. Good.
Yes. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. Moving
Thinking
on.
about the
But
map.
this Cal Cryptus is not out of mana, but out of milk.
Out of milk.
I'm This cow's out of milk.
So are we confirming that cryptids have nipples now? And it's
Of
like
course.
I mean,
We did
to be
so
fair,
well.
to be fair, Epark did juice a lot of Cryptus. So like
He
how
did.
he did that, I don't know. Can you juice a Can you milk a Cryptus until it dissolves?
I'm not involved in this, everyone. Just saying. Like, I didn't even talk about this.
But like they have a lot of eyes. How many nipples do you think they have?
oh
Wait,
12.
what?
Oh my God.
I
Yeah.
don't think
Funny
eyes
side.
correlate to amount of nipples, do they?
No, biologically,
mean-
like, you know, you have 2 eyes, you got usually 2 nipples.
What about cats? And
and
other
dogs.
mammals?
They don't have 6 eyes and 6 nipples.
That
I
have
mean,
more than 2 nipples.
No,
Do they
this is a
have other
biological
eyes?
fact of life. Your amount of nipples matches to your amount of eyes.
You all haven't seen all the eyes that cats secretly have?
Oh,
The only one that
Oh.
found them?
y'all must have got the different world patch that hit last week.
There's one at the back,
Oh
just
my
below the
God.
tail, I guess, but like, it looks like it.
look, I'm still campaigning for nipple sliders because
What?
all the boy nipples in Guild Wars 2 are parked underneath people's armpits. They need to be brought to the middle, guys. Brought to the middle. Sorry.
It's not their fault.
is-
All
Is
of the
that
male
because you just
models
keep making
have
them
wide
have
nipples.
big chests, and then they just the big chest means they go out to the
It's just
side
like
more?
Pop off.
Like,
They
what do
just
you mean?
popped off.
Hey, Pop.
You wait. I
That's how
have
they
a
see
friend
through
who
peripheral
plays-
vision.
Top expansion requests in character creation mode is nipple placement.
I want a
Yes.
butt
Amazing.
slider.
You want a butt slider?
That'd be good.
Oh. Are we talking height or are we talking like
Hey,
plumpness?
that's next week's conversation.
Depth and width.
That is
Depth and
next
width.
week.
Okay.
Next week is that. Next week is the next expansion. We've got to stick on this one. There was no nipple
Okay.
slider.
Fine.
Okay, can't ask for
No,
that.
that's, I'm very sad.
One thing that I
Okay.
didn't care for in Secrets of the Obscure, to bring us back,
Mhm.
is how few nipples.
Oh my god.
The Cryptus had different kinds of nipples.
I
You
almost
just don't know
trusted
what
you,
they
Rogue.
are.
I almost trusted you.
I don't think we can trust anyone on this podcast.
I wish there had been a lot more than there were, and that you could filter, like there have been filters added to the UI to change how big or small they appeared on your overlay. But that's just me. I don't know.
That's fair. It's totally fair. Love that for you and everyone else. Masteries, because Skyscale somewhat relates to this, obviously, because you could expand the masteries, the Skyscale skills and whatnot. But we got the Heart of the Obscure research. I definitely think we should talk to Fornax first about that one. The flight training for the Skyscale, which is kind of cool. We got the Astral Ward as well. The gliding is just at the bottom because we just got gliding with it. But it was just the base mastery, like the first couple, I think, that we got with Heart Thorns. So you didn't just have to have that for, don't just now get gliding with Heart Thorns, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Get it with this as well. Does anyone want to talk about the mastery specifically? Did you enjoy getting them? I think there was a lot of it felt like a lot of the masteries were just there for armor most of the time and like items, but Kroof has their hand up.
Thank you so much for calling on me, Mr. Jebro. Thank you.
And
I'm ready to get my.
Violet.
I don't want to go into this too much, but I
Sure.
do want to take a brief moment to eat my words. You see this?
Sure.
Words. Look at that word. I just ate them. I actually, if y'all might remember, the loyal ones, the fans, my
Sure.
stands. If you remember, I was very against the Skyscale getting a combat ability, like fireballs.
Oh yeah, I think
I thought it was going to wreck the game. I thought like people would just be like up in the air, destroying mobs in one hit, which they kind of are in open world, not gonna lie, because it's really strong. But I gotta say, it's kind of fun.
It is
It's kind of
fun.
fun. And I think
Yeah.
it balanced out so much better than I was expecting it to. We didn't have all the information back then, so that was just, you know what? Maybe I am wrong sometimes. And I'm gonna have to be okay with that.
So you mean that we don't have the same amount of eyes and nipples for everything in the world? Is
Hey,
that what you're
I didn't
saying?
say I was wrong about that. I just said,
Kroof was right about that.
we
for sure.
gotta take it one statement at a time. It took me a year to get to this point to say that, hey, I kind of like the fireballs.
Oh yeah, that's
so
true. It's almost the year, yeah. We're almost the year there.
let's slow it down, Jebro. We can't expect that much growth out of me so soon.
That's totally fair. Very true. Okay, good. I'm glad that you could look and see in the bigger picture and how it the things. Anything
Yeah,
else?
I'm glad you could also see the
Monsters?
bigger picture and how and things.
And how and things, yeah, how beneficial. Well, the thing is that as well that I'll give some more details because things is a favorite word of mine. I'm going to give you some context on the things. Some of the events and adventures were really hinged upon the sky scale as well. I mean, a lot had hinged upon the sky scale. Pretty much the entire expansion did. If you didn't have a sky scale, you were kind of effed. Let's be real. Unless you're one of those epic people who can use the griffins and it's just like it doesn't matter what you use, you're just skillful. I'm not that kind of player, not at that level at all. So it's very important to have things like fireballs and being able to go through a ley line and just sit there and go through it and use what are they called, the updrafts and stuff like that they added as well, which is very cool. That's my updraft imagery with my hand. That is what an updraft is.
It's not going up.
I know, but it doesn't make any sense. Much like me. If you're not watching the video, then you're just missing out on the best content, clearly, and cruise guns as well, obviously.
I mean, that too, which is really important.
I call this one AK and this one 47.
The AK-47 is just one gun, Croof. That's another thing you got wrong in this podcast. Just saying.
Excuse me.
What was that? Shots fired.
Smart guns.
That was good. Yeah, Astral Vault Mastery. I don't know. Anyone want to comment on the other masteries at all, or just?
Oh, Masters,
something?
yeah. I was like, what were we talking about? All I can think about is how many nipples and eyes things
I know,
have.
we go in loop.
Now
right
think about spiders. That's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about how many. It's like exponential growth.
Oh god.
I think
please
there's a
don't.
nipple on every leg, right? I'm pretty sure that's how spider anatomy works.
What?
Okay, Masteries. Secrets of the Obscure. Masteries.
Mm.
I thought they were all fine.
That's the word, isn't it? That's the word.
I
I'm
think
just
they're
like,
fine. I wouldn't say that any of the masteries, like Jadebot, for example, in End of Dragons, to me was oh wow, they're really expanding what masteries can be, and totally, like adding in this new thing that I think is so cool, and I use the waypoint all the time, and I love having that extra res out in the field, and you can customize them. So that was kind of like a big mastery feature. I really did enjoy that they showed us that even mounts that we already had, right? There was this discussion earlier about how these maps so heavily feature the flying mounts. And I agree with you, Fornex, in that, like, I hope that doesn't necessarily become something where other content for other mounts is abandoned, but I felt more with Secrets of the Obscure that it was very intentional, right? That they wanted to showcase flying mounts. They wanted to also make them more accessible in a different way for folks that, maybe were just starting out, and that they wanted to show that they can use these unique mount systems to create maps that give you different experiences than just always like there's a ground part and there's a sky part and I kind of just tootle along it. Like having something that's a bigger, like we're in this big liminal space and there's giant floating islands and all this kind of stuff is an example of how Guild Wars 2 likes to push their map designs in ways that many other MMOs to this day still they get so hung up, I think, on just having this flat plane and the thing up above, and your mounts can either fly or not, and that just is kind of how it is. But the Guild Wars 2 environments are bigger and more sprawling. So all that to say, I think the masteries that they included with expanding mount capabilities, particularly with flying mounts, was something that felt really appropriate to earn through these maps, and that opened these maps up in a satisfying way. I also think that, just working through and getting the other masteries that you kind of need along the way, I enjoyed them, the vendor and paving the way for the legendary PvE armor, getting that all leveled up. I think that's great too, going around and maxing those out. So it wasn't anything that I felt was like, oh, the masteries are so wildly innovative this time, but I thought they were nice extensions off of what we have in the game. And I think they also showed that maybe even some of those other mounts that we have in game might get an expansion or expanded mastery tracks, or someday they might circle back around and be like, hey, those jackal puzzles were super fun with the teleports. What if we had maps where there were a bunch of portals and we added in some new features for this, or some other things to make these mounts, to solidify their spot? Or what if we had more maps that featured narratively a siege, so you're going to bring your turtles to that? Or we had I liked that. I thought it was cohesive. It was a nice trajectory. It made me feel like I was able to get mastery over the maps while showcasing some of the new things with flying mounts. And while it wasn't as exciting as End of Dragons with like a whole new feature mastery line, big thing, I thought it was a good solid progression. So.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I think there was a lot of focus on, for me, the legendary kind of part of it. Like what was it? Which track was it? The Mastery, not Astral Ward. What was it called? Oh, maybe it was the Astral Ward on. Which one was it? Anyway, you had to do something to start crafting the legendary armor. Something in there. I wasn't really like that bothered about leveling this up, other than the Sky Scale one, honestly, and just maybe the Heart of the Obscure. I mean, that's half of them, so I guess, you know, maybe I was. I'm trying to, but also it's not like the be all and end all if you don't, which is cool, because I feel like there's a lot of mastery points for these. Ornax, any thoughts on masteries?
I think that they are basically the game's leveling system. So rather than leveling your characters, you know, number goes up, item number goes up. This is what we're leveling, and that's fine. Sometimes they can feel like busy work. Sometimes they can be annoying if you get I'm not going to say the word I was thinking, stopped from progressing, and
I know what you're going to say as well.
No, I know. I'm sorry. But I'm kind of sad that they haven't gone quite in the direction that I was hoping. When we first got the mastery system with Heart of Thorns, there was a lot of excitement about unlocking like the Itzel and stuff like that, and you're going to understand these languages, and you're going to do this, that, and the other, and it did actually allow us to have access to different areas of the map, and I was kind of thinking, oh, so we're going to have to learn their language and we're not going to understand them until we've actually like done the mastery, and that could be a way to kind of get into the lore, to link the gameplay system to the lore, so that we have this kind of a marriage of the two, so you feel like you're connected more to the actual mechanics of the game, and it's more grounded. And I was kind of hoping for that, and I've always kind of been like, oh, come on guys, kind of integrate these systems a bit more so that we feel more connected. But I have no objections to the mastery system. It's a necessity. It does some time gating for the game. It helps with the pacing. It's a functioning system which I feel like is beneficial, especially when they tie it to interesting things. So I'm again, basic bitch, very happy. Easy to please. I'm a cheap date. That's what I can say. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna put that we're done with masteries. That was it. That was easy. Okay. Still a feature, still an important feature. I think if they went down to 2 masteries and they wanted to invest in other systems, I wouldn't be the most upset person in the world. But I think you're right. Like, to a degree, it's nice to have something to level up as well, and like another thing that you can do. So maybe reducing that wouldn't be the best idea. I wanted to go over to equipment actually, because we actually got new armor sets, and now obviously Fornex, like you're a big expert in the whole fashion thing. Like, I mean, you do the videos, you do the content on this. So there's new armor sets, looks wise. There's new weapon sets, and there's new looks and skins for those as well. We also got relics, which are a brand new thing for this expansion. Really, really important thing. And then we got legendary relics as well, which was like wild that we got that so quick. And they had the rune rework. And we got a bunch of new mount skins, and that's going to take us into a big new feature that we're going to talk about later. So we obviously got like the Crypto Sky Scale, and we got like which is a new kit collection. We got the Enchanted Owl Griffin skin from the Wizard's Vault. And they were available in-game to unlock, and we didn't have to buy them. And that was a big change and a big new addition to the game as well, because I don't believe we could unlock anything before we got to this moment. No, we couldn't. I'm pretty sure about that, because I think we made I seem to remember us making a specifically big deal about that on the podcast. So that is a big equipment piece. There's a lot there.
There was one.
Was it?
There was one. It was the mastery line for World v World.
Oh,
there's a World v World mount.
But that was like, we got that mount from we got it from the mode, didn't we? We just got a mount.
Yeah.
Right? You don't get a skin.
Well, no, it was a skin as well. Was it? Yeah, no, there was a skin. There was a unique skin. Yeah.
On top of the mount? Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Other than that.
Okay.
We'll go around that. What did you think about all of the... Because I remember you had some thoughts about the kind of like fleshy armor set. Not armor sets, they're weapons and stuff. I remember us having that conversation. I remember me going specifically to go and get an armor set, a weapon set, because you didn't like it. There was like the fleshy Cryptus one.
I'm not a fan of the abattoir
There we
chic
go.
that is going on in this expansion. It's just, yeah, nah, brah. It just get away from me. That's just sick. No, I don't like it. I'm not. I just look. Herbert is nice, but I don't want to wear Herbert. Okay. I want Herbert to be
fair.
free, roaming Naos, being happy. I don't want to be sticking his tentacles to my head or any other part of my body. And I don't particularly want to be very close to rotting flesh. It's just me. I'm weird like that. So yeah, no, I'm good.
how strange.
Thanks.
Is it
but
rotten though?
you do
It's
you, boo.
technically still alive. I don't
What if
think-
it's been jerked?
Excuse me?
like chicken?
Like jerk chicken.
not the other
Look,
way.
sweetie. Look, sweetie, you're an adult, so you get to jerk whatever you want to. But I just
Wow,
no,
y'all's
good.
minds went
Hey,
straight to the
I did it.
gutter.
I was with you. That was Rook and Fornex. Just saying.
Y'all.
The innocent
Who
people
am I on a
here, Proof and
podcast
Jebro,
with?
like, we didn't go there.
I can't do this
No,
podcast with y'all anymore. Y'all are inappropriate.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well,
That would be correct.
go
I've got
forward. I'm
Herbert's
gonna
number.
take a
I'll
bite.
send it to you. He has many tentacles. You can have lots of fun. Just remember your safe word.
Yeah, that's the real reason that we didn't get to actually confront Herbert again, because the Groove and Herbert actually have a whole thing going, and they did elope. So
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
we've been
He's
doing
locked
video.
in the sex dungeon right now, and he's gonna be there for a while.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
That's why they were talking about like eye drops, because they've been having to like buy them in industrial numbers. That's
And not for what you would think, actually. So it's
Oh,
very wild.
God.
true.
I'm practicing optometry, so.
Lubrication is very important after all.
Oh, man. All right.
So,
What
where
are we
were
talking
we?
You said you don't want to wear them. Yeah.
Oh,
Because they're
yeah,
rotting.
yeah.
Because they're rotting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that it?
No, great fashion was this season. Can't wait for more like it. Yes, that's
I mean,
the
there
general
was
takeaway.
some good. Like the
There was.
the wizard stuff was very good. I know Kroof is a big fan of
Yeah.
the wizards out. Wants some of the wizard
Oh
stuff.
yes.
Big
Big fan.
Rook's wearing one literally in their video. Which maybe I'll try and pull that back up somewhere. I think so.
Am I? No, I guess I can elaborate off of this now that I'm done being
Oh, you got the hat.
inappropriate for the
You
time
got
being.
the hat from the expansion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I thought honestly that this expansion had a lot of cosmetic stuff. I mean, including new legendary armor. Some of it was well, I mean, gosh, we have to take into account the fact that if we're including cosmetics that came out, we have to include Wizard's Vault. And like that alone has introduced so many unique cosmetic skins, mount skins, weapon
Absolutely.
recolor skins. And that was a wealth of stuff that now you could earn, not just in Secrets of the Obscure, but in the entirety of the game, playing whatever content you want, right? Although, of course, you had to have Secrets of the Obscure to access some of the specific rewards.
Yes.
But that's huge. And I thought all of that was an incredible addition to the game. Some of the other sets that came from farming a lot of stuff, I thought could have perhaps been a little bit, again, a lot of times I do wish that some of the droppable collectible stuff was a little bit more apparent in the game outside of just, I look a whole bunch on Wikipedia, or I rush over to go see Fornax's new video to find out about all the things that I didn't know existed in here cosmetically, which I love Fornax's videos, and please go rush over to watch those. But I wish sometimes that as I was going through, I was more immediately aware of the fact that there were like a bunch of weapon sets that lock or are hidden behind all these things, or if you do these higher tier rifts, then you have a chance of getting this set or that set, or that there were even some like alternative ways to kind of exchange whatever currency or stuff for those too. I think would be nice. So I loved the cosmetics we got, and I thought we got a great range on both sides of the sort of more crypto stuff to the more wizard stuff, and I appreciated that there was a lot across the actual expansion and the Wizard's Vault that was added as well.
Is there like a piece of? Is there like a skin or a weapon skin or something that you feel that you're kind of using now from the expansion that you're like, oh yeah, I like that a lot, and I'm gonna use it all the time?
It's all the wizard Astral Ward stuff.
Yeah.
I love the like Astral Ward weapons, the Astrolabe weapons, or the ones that they did. I thought those were really cool. I love all the wizard hats, especially if they let me show hair. I love, I just really enjoyed that aesthetic. And I like the Cryptus armor set that's the precursor to the legendary armor, the
Oh yeah.
Oneiros.
what is it called? The Oneiros spun gear.
Something like that.
I think it's cool because I like that it kind of morphs you into them, and that you have like the raised heels, and that you have, so if you want to have a character that you're kind of imagining as being one of these entities and they're not a playable race, you can have one and you can kind of like make them and make that part of your appearance, or headcanon that your character, I don't know, underwent some kind of dramatic transformation or was replaced by their demon dream self, or I have no idea. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a really good point. Because you could do that.
I like it.
Yeah. And you could do it with the armor and the weapons. And I could have just shown Crichton Herald's video. So thank you for reminding me. Since that's what we've been talking about. Good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could pretty much cosplay most sides of this, actually.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, could you do that? I think they do some mostly.
You could get like forged armor.
Yeah, but these
like
are
Path
more...
of Fire. These are like really like stuck to the character. There's multiple options and variations you can go with. And you can also get quite a few back pieces that give you that more Cryptus vibe if you're looking for that. The strike mission, I think if you do the challenge mode for Ceres, you can get his like back fangs. Like the big chunky back fangs. And I think there is a rare drop in this new this new update. And if you don't get it as a drop, you can actually go to the new NPC in the Wizard's Tower and purchase it, I believe. And it's Eparch's like back item. And it's like this really like thin, bony, like wide, almost wingspan looking thing. It's really cool. So there's a few other cosmetic options for like that cryptus-y aesthetic.
Yeah, right now on the vault is the Sky Sage stuff, and I think it's some of the prettiest stuff. I think we got the boots to start with and the hat, and now they've put the chest and leg guards on, and they're just lovely. They really are just ethereal and pretty and elegant. I actually do like the juxtaposition between the very visceral gore kind of the Cryptus and the elegant kind of almost like Victorian steampunky typeness of the wizards. I do enjoy that, and I think they've done a good job. I think for visual diversity in across the stuff that we get has been amazing, and they always make beautiful things. Even the things that I wouldn't personally want, I can see the creativity and the aesthetic and the theming, and it works, right? Visuals is something that you're hard pressed to find better visuals in the MMO space than you get with the armors in Guild Wars 2. They're still streets ahead. I mean, they've forced the other games to up their armor kind of game because of Guild Wars is such stellar quality and diversity of shapes and yeah, it's really good. So I always love their stuff. Apart from the Abattoir Chic stuff, it's just a bit. You know, you do you. Right, I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. If you like rotting meat, you should be happy and do what you need to do.
I did just pause it on the video of one of your favorite weapon sets. Should really enjoy these.
Okay.
I want to poke the tentacles. Like I feel like they're squishy and just like slimy.
The eyes move and stuff. Like I love the details on this. It's it's so great. But like the hammer, pardon me, as well. Like that, it is. You're right. It's unique. It's cool. And like even if you don't like something, there's probably something else in the expansion which will be more to your taste because there's so many different extremes, like you say. And it's good because it reflects what the expansion is about, right? These two different sides of like the Astral Ward and the Cryptus, and you can wear them all. Oh
Yeah,
dear.
we have to support Herbert. This is obviously like from his Etsy store.
For
But we
Herbert.
should all try and get these. It's got to be for Herbert, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right, we're
agree.
starting a small business, and I'm trying to do the socials for it, but he's really breaking a sweat, like designing all of these pieces. So I hope you all enjoy them.
We also got legendary armor. We got a PvE Overland legendary
did.
armor set as well, in addition. Now, what are we thinking about that? Good? Bad? Or if obviously, if anyone wants to talk about the weapons and the other skins, then that's fine as well. That's okay. But that's pretty good. Right?
Yeah.
Just
No, it's
the
good.
I guess yeah. Like it is good. Like it's just another way we can get legendary armor.
Ooh.
But go on.
Kent Benson in chat, shout out, but also asks a wonderful question. Were there any one-off weapons y'all went for? I chased down Mabon's collection greatsword pretty quickly. I also went for Mabon's greatsword. It was beautiful. I did not expect the sheathed and then unsheathed transition in terms of it being like invisible and then materializing. I thought that was really cool. There was some of the strike mission weapons were actually pretty cool. Like the staff, it has this like beautiful statuesque man, like arms wide, and it has this beautiful framing behind it. And there's this focus, which is like a harp. I think it's named like Laments something, but it's also really cool looking. So I think the strike missions had a couple good skins added to it to pad out for rewards for PvE players. I'm trying to think of the other like one-off skins now that you're mentioning it, because even in the other patches, like first, second, and third patch of this year, there were like new weapon skins like Nabolog's Fang, Ignaxius's mace skin. Eparch has an axe, I think, that he drops, or is like a part of a collection. I'd say the greatsword was probably one of like the more showstoppers. Ooh, the Waylit Lantern was good too. The torch, the torch that you get from like Lear doing that collection. I like that.
Trying to see if I can find a video which just shows the armor off. It looks. Oh no, the Guild Wars 2 have one, because we can look at that. That's probably an important thing we should probably talk about. The fact that they actually have upped their promotional material.
Yeah.
I feel like even though it's not a Guild Wars 2 expansion feature, just during the process they actually really did a good job with that in general, which is very, very cool. I don't know actually if I'm gonna be able to find access to that specifically, so I'm not gonna probably find that in time, but that's okay. What else? Where are we going? Yes, I think this is a really good way, because obviously raids, World v World, PvP all got armor. PvE as well in the form of raids, but technically you could almost call that another game mode, because it's like instance combat, and if you can't get groups etc, then that's gonna kind of be like, oh, and you don't like World v World and PvP, you're not gonna get the legendary armor maybe. So this was the answer to that. Very cool, but there are obviously thoughts and comments about the fact that you have to do a lot of rifts and that you have to do a lot of this stuff, and I'm like, but
I don't mind it.
That's what you're doing though. That's the content you would be doing anyway. So like, why? Like, it's farming. It's just grinding, isn't it? Maybe
it is farming. I think we'd mentioned it at last stream, I think, where I wish that the Cryptus Essence was just also implemented into the meta events when you're fighting.
That's right. More diversity, maybe in gaining these things. Yeah.
I still would like the rifts to have the bulk of the amount of essence that drops, but just like a little something to. I'm wondering. The meta chests. When you do a meta, you have a selection of like a unique item, an amalgamated gemstone. I think you can choose essence from that.
I don't remember.
I can Google. I think you can.
Some,
but
maybe.
I honestly
You
don't.
can with some.
I think it's fair to ask people to jump through hoops, because you never have to replace this armor. You're one dance on.
Right? Like
no, I think I'm thinking of the convergence chests.
I mean, I guess you do have to redo it if you're going to get the other weights.
Yeah.
So you
But I
kind
mean,
of do.
so
but,
that's so you. Well, indeed. I mean, most people have a character that they play, right? So most people are only ever really going to do it once. It's just crazy people like us who like are trying to get all the legendary stuff. So you know.
I mean, I'm not going to try and get that, honestly.
Yeah,
I want it. But...
I do think there's something to be said about the Rift experience overall from Secrets of the Obscure, because especially because you are farming them for things like these essences, and especially if you wanted to then tie into something like the legendary armor, or if you're even just trying to get any of those unique skins and things that come from it, right? I found that Rift farming was easy. It was mindless. I don't say that in a bad way. Like there were a few times
I know what you're saying there.
There were a few times that like I would hop in and just run around with somebody, and it was just like, I don't know, what should we do? Just Rift farm. So we just run around and do that. And in a lot of ways, I think that is important to just have stuff that's like that you can just kind of get into the flow in, that's constantly turning over. I do think that, judging by some of the inspiration from Rifts, literally the game Rift, right? I think there could be something to be said about some of the tuning and some of the variety of experience. And again, this is a smaller year-long cycle. And it's not to say that other MMOs that release something like this don't also kind of fall into these traps a little bit, because I know even with some of ESO stuff, when they do their year-long expansions, whatever the new little mechanic is, be they Sea Pearls or Oblivion Gates or whatever it is, a lot of times they kind of have this same pitfall. But I guess for me, that if there's something like a Rift and I go around, or I want to do the harder ones or things like that, I oftentimes want it to be a little bit more varied of an experience. And I think some of the scaling with large groups in particular could have been adjusted a bit, or some, like, I don't know, just interesting or unique things, or the chance at having bonus stuff that drops. Of course, you have chances at the weapons and things that drop, so there is that. But I would have liked if there was a little bit more of a natural progression or flow. I still am confused about crafting the things for the higher tier rifts. I kind of just wish that they had actually been things that just dropped straight from the base rifts that you could just hoard up, and that would just let you do the next tier of rifts, or that you'd have a chance at them just dropping, and then you just be like, hey, I got it too, so let's pop it, let's do it. Or because it still feels a little convoluted to me. And I guess I also thought maybe initially that some of the rifts too, kind of like what we eventually got with the Convergence, would kind of allow you to go into a little place and fight some, I don't know, just do a little something and then come back. So I don't think that rifts were inherently bad, and I think they had a good flow, but given so much was dependent on them for grinding this expansion, and they were the vast majority of stuff outside of the meta runs that you were doing to just engage with in the expansion, unless you were progging strike missions or stuff like that, right? It felt a little, after a while I was kind of like, yeah, okay, we can just keep doing more rifts, and I kind of wished that there had been a little bit something else that was a little more interesting or engaging or filled out about the experience, that might just make it feel a little bit more like there was a sense of excitement or anticipation, or possibility for something to drop, or something unique to prog, or variation,
It was go on, Griff.
It would have been nice if they leaned into that dynamic element of dynamic events, where maybe the tier 1, it's like you are just standing there killing the minor cryptis and then you fight the elite. Maybe the tier 2, it's like I don't know if it's an escort mission or some type of, you have to follow and trail along. And fight a band of cryptids that are attacking a city. And then particularly for the tier 3s, it's supposed to be the toughest cryptis event that you're going to be fighting with a good amount of players. And I think they're in very they're all in designated areas. But I would have liked something a bit more cinematic for the tier 3. Maybe it's a tier 3 rift opens in the first part of the Skywatch archipelago, right at the it's not the wizard. It's not the wizard's tower. It's the
The bomb.
Beacon of Ages. The Beacon of Ages. Like maybe it like a big threat emerges and then all the Astral Ward come out to try to fight it, and it's a little bit more story, a little bit more meaningful. So I would have maybe liked a bit more consequence with like the tier 3 one especially. But I like that it overall is farmable. I would not take that away from the lower tiers. But tier 3, I think they could have maybe pushed it a bit more.
Yeah, they were an interesting. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Phonics.
Sorry, no. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I was
you're
just, I was thinking. So, how evergreen do you guys think this content is going to be? So, obviously, people are going to be coming into game at various points. The game is going to be going on and on for an indeterminate number of years. Do you think that it's going to be possible or easy, or do you think they're going to have to go back and patch some of this stuff so that people can continue to craft the PvE legendary armor going forward when the next big shiny expansion comes and people drop off?
At a certain point, probably. I mean, they've made various elements of raiding much easier for legendary armor, like increasing provisioner tokens. So I could see them upping the amount of essence that you get initially from these rifts, just to make it a little less time consuming. Like maybe a year, 2 years, 2 or 3 years down the line, maybe.
Maybe. Difficult to tell without having the other expansions in and knowing what other systems and bits and bobs are going to come along, right? Like they might do. I mean, they might make it that you can also get other things to put towards this armor. Who knows, right? Like they're going to have to come up with some other stuff because they put legendary armor and relics in this one expansion, which was wild that they did that. But cool, like it was good. Also, a mini shout out to the video that we're currently using in the background is Tiffy Miss Whiffy. Loads of awesome guides. They have, we just got the it's how to open and close rifts. So if you ever want to find out how to do that, you can go to check out their stuff. Also, loads of good guides and stuff. I'm gonna push us through. And does anyone else want to comment on the kind of armor or the relic as well? We should probably talk about the relic as well a bit, because they kind of gave it to us pretty cheaply as well. Like that was pretty cool. We could get that without really much effort, right? Like it was just make one rune on your armor. Hello, boots. You could do that, and it was these. Did everyone get the relic?
The Leggy relic?
Yeah.
I did. I surely did.
You did?
Oh no, the legendary relic? No. I haven't. Okay, I haven't engaged with relics very much. But because I mean it's no surprise, it's not a shock on this podcast that Boots and Kroof tend to be more of our theory crafter brains. You know, don't hide. Your brain's beautiful. It's great. It's amazing.
It's ugly.
Oh, it's amazing. It's powerful.
Kind of
just like your arms.
It's wrinkly. It needs to be smooth.
No, so I have not delved into relics that deeply, which I really should. And I know that they seem to have actually like rounded things out, and that a lot of people have liked using them in builds. I don't know if you can speak more to that, Kroof, because I have not really dabbled in them. So things like getting the legendary relic, I know people were happy about how it was kind of like ushered in, and that, you know, there were, you know, kind of a streamlined way that you could prep for getting it even when it, you know, was finally released. But how do you feel that like the relics have changed the landscape of things in, you know, theory crafting in Guild Wars 2?
Thank you for asking me this question.
Of course.
I think relics as a concept are really exciting. And I believe that there are quite a few relics that have already been added that really change up how you navigate your build or how you navigate a combat situation. I gave an example a little bit back. I think it's the Relic of Lear, where when you heal allies, you tether to them, and then you take on like 25% of the damage they receive. And I've kind of structured a block guardian build around that. And it's really fun. It created a new way. It allowed me to play my guardian in a new way. And there are a couple other relics that have been released in terms of whenever you complete a combo finisher in a field, you'll gain barrier. So I've been trying to play around with like a tanky thief. And those types of relics I really enjoy. Things that add on and kind of give you a little bit of a different perspective or an effect. And those are the much more exciting ones that kind of play off of, are you tanking? Are you absorbing damage? Are you increasing your healing? It feels more active. But then you have the other relics, which are essentially just passive bonuses, which are no different than what the rune and relic system used to be. And those tend to be a bit more meta because you kind of set them and forget them, and they can be very strong and, if not permanent, aspects of your build. So for like high-end raiding or, you know, challenge modes, I imagine you'd go with those because they're a little bit more trustworthy. Now, it's kind of inevitable that those would be in the game. They're not as exciting to me, and I feel like they kind of will just pigeonhole people into just choosing those, and then all these other relics, which are a little bit more exciting, like the Relic of Lear or the relic that gives you barrier on, you know, combo leap finishers, very specific type of gameplay elements in Guild Wars 2. I really praise those quite a bit. But I guess at the end of the day, I'm happy they're both there, but I feel like I wouldn't have mind if they just leaned into those like unique effects and more tailored to like certain things, like have it be around light auras or dark auras, change the way you interact with chaos auras, things like that. So I find them to be a really cool addition to the Guild Wars 2 combat experience and buildcraft. I'm excited to see how they continue to progress. I would love to see a relic in PvE that is like, you have a very consistent, reliable way to taunt enemies that everyone would have access to, because only like 3 classes have like a somewhat reliable way to taunt, and it would just be nice, because I think that would be another tanking playstyle that I would love to explore, like when doing dungeons or fractals and there's a bunch of ads in them. I want to take the brunt of the damage, and there's a couple concepts that I'm like, there's potential here. I would love to see what happens next.
Nice. Yeah, I forgot about the layer one. I need to try that. I might try that PvP layer. Yeah, you're right. There is some really cool just effect piece. Like there is so many. There's like playing with like even the newer parts of the combat which have been added in recent years, like barrier and stuff, as you said, which are really, really cool. A lot of it is just the 6th piece of the rune set, because obviously they just pop that over because a lot of people have the runes, right? So we had the rune rework as well, which was just about putting a stat there instead of the bonus. So we even got some bonus kind of, or did we get a bonus stat, or did they just put it across the other stat? Does that make sense? Like, they just gave us an extra stat, didn't they?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's what they did.
Yeah. Okay. So that was cool. So it didn't like totally negate everything, but you do still need to get the relics if you don't have the legendary, which is what I'm showing on screen right now. So which is the reason why the legendary is so good is literally because there are so many. It's like legendary runes and sigils and stuff. The reason why they're so good is because there's so many, and armor, and any legendary. Obviously, that's the main reason why they're good.
There are a couple relics that I just wonder why they were added. Like there was one recently where it was like when you disable or like inflict immobilize on an enemy, you apply like 2 vulnerability to them, and it sometimes I'm like, I guess you didn't need to add that. It doesn't seem like it would be super useful, or I don't feel like it's really pushing the mold of interacting with the type of gameplay in Guild Wars 2. It feels very flat.
It feels special. Yeah, because like you can just inflict vulnerability 1 stack with just an auto attack ability sometimes. Yeah. You know, so it's like, you know, in some abilities, like you can apply 10 stacks with, what is it, Revenant, I think, on offhand sword or something. I can't remember which one it is, but like it's 10 stacks of like vulnerability, and I'm like, big cooldown, but you know, it's still pretty big compared to like a Tuesday. Yeah,
I think we've already hit a case with relics where I feel like they could prune them back, and they were just introduced. I feel like they're starting to kind of be a bit too much right now, where they're just kind of there to exist.
Okay. Cool. Relics. Good addition. I think so. Anyway, I think the general gist is they're cool, they're fun, they're awesome. I think we need to engage in them more. I think, they're another thing to store in your bank, or in your bag, or on a build, and there may not be enough space for all the ones you want to play around with. So if you don't have a legendary, that can get a bit complicated. Oh god, we've still got loads to go, but we're going to be a little bit more vague, I think, on these next things. I want to talk about group content, and we can talk about this very generally as well. I mean, I haven't really done the strikes, but witnessed the strikes because we have the world firsts, of course, which was very, very cool to think about. We're going to be talking about the vault as well in a bit. And what Rook said as well, completely even forgot about the flipping rifts. Yeah, that's how impactful they were. My experience in the expansion, which is, they was touted as such a big part of the expansion as well, because they were teased to us, weren't they, right at the beginning? And one of the first teas we got that trailer of like a sand dune and a rift in the eye, didn't we? And that was the thing. And then we had all this theory like around what a rift's gonna be, and then all the things that they could have possibly been, like Rook and Kreef were saying, and then we kind of got what we got, and it felt like another one of those things where it's like, oh man, that could have been fleshed out a little bit, maybe. There's no pun intended there, no cryptus, but I could have done that, but I didn't. Decided not to go there. But Rift was like a really good game where like they just really gave you the idea of an invasion happening, and they dominate the map, and you have to work as a map to take these things back. And I think they could have used that in the meta a bit more, but anyway, kind of what Rick was saying as well. I just wanted to make a little comment about it because it's really important to talk about that. There's so many things that we probably are going to miss, but we need to talk about overarching things. Strike missions, the fractal, and convergences. Yes, there's still a little bit to go. And you need to tell me as well in our Discord if this is going way too long for you, because it is been about 2.5 hours so far. Give some general thoughts, enjoyment. Were they good for the expansion 4 next? Do you want to start off with this? I'm not sure how much you've done of this content specifically, but
I mean, I've done a bit.
Cool.
I think that anything that draws the community together into groups to do gameplay is great. I feel like people still are kind of sad, especially people who do really enjoy group content and challenging group content. We're all still kind of in mourning and hoping for a resurrection of raids. So anything that kind of mirrors that kind of content that we can kind of, put a nicotine patch of like large group content. Yeah. Yeah, it's what we want, and I'm kind of hopeful that they will see that people have been quite engaged in this content, in this larger group content, and give us some raids for the next expansion. That would be very lovely, please. But yeah, no, I wish there was more diversity. I wish there was more diversity.
Yes.
It's either you give us more diversity or you give us banging rewards that we will grind our face off to get. That's the two choices that you have. And in the absence of, they like to kind of have a circuitous route to rewards. So I feel like they need to give us the diversity. But no, I'm quite happy with what we got. And yeah, it's good, and more fractals, more. Let's have the fractal where Expac kills Febe. That's what I want. If we're not going to get our story on the map, give us the bits that we missed. Give us the bits that we missed in fractals, please.
Yeah, I'm glad that they did the strikes. I agree, Fornax, with all of your feedback that there needs to be a good incentive for them, and that, yeah, it's I'm really hopeful because that something is coming with this next expansion. We've had a little teaser and everything else, which we'll be talking about in coming weeks, and we're going to get more information next week, depending on when you listen to this podcast. So I have faith. They've mentioned a few times possibly something with endgame and things like that. Maybe raids are making a comeback. Because all I can say from my end is that I actually have not done many of the strike missions with even my weekly raid group. I'm not exactly sure why that is. Sometimes it's because not everybody has the new expansion or things like that. But there definitely seemed to be more of an impetus to run the End of Dragons strikes, because I think of many of the rewards and things that were tied to them. And I like strike missions again. I think they're good, and I don't think they should be removed. I think just figuring out how to continue to like roll them into end game cycles, but they don't seem to, at least with the raid groups that I raid with, so from my limited perspective, they don't seem to incentivize folks inherently on their own quite as much as just even running the raid wings does. People will rerun those raid wings over and over and over and over again. But the amount of people that I see running strike missions, it feels more like it's a very picky, choosy, maybe I will, maybe I won't. It really depends on whether or not I want to get something specific from them. Now, I don't know if the answer is something more like a universal raid currency system like we have, where you can convert to a wider range of rewards. I don't know if having more, rewards across the board that are more achievable for folks with them that they want to do. I'm not sure what exactly would kind of prompt and incentivize folks to engage quite as much, because as it is right now, I more so get the impression that unless there's something, maybe the End of Dragon strikes were more successful in this, because when it came to even kind of earning gold in the period of the game, or the rewards that came from them, or some of the legendary Oreen stuff, or other things like that, folks seemed to be just a little bit more like, hey, yeah, at the very least, like, we'll even just run the normal modes of the strikes each week, or we'll even just go in and do those, possibly because of some of the currencies and other things that you purchase with them. So from my limited experience, I haven't seen as many people like just rolling it into their raid nights, but I know that when it comes to the actual end game public side, the world race in particular, that's huge for the game. And the difficulty that we had on that Cirrus CM, it was the Cirrus CM, yeah? That's what I'm thinking of? Yes. The difficulty that we had on that, much like Harvest Temple CM, was fantastic. And it really did spark interest in the endgame community. It, that whole race was really thrilling and exciting, and it did get a lot of notice from, the larger MMO sphere in what Guild Wars 2 can offer for difficult content. So that I thought was a big success. Figuring out more of the strikes and how, again, you kind of continue to integrate them into things that players might handily want to group and do, I think is something. And yeah, I haven't gone through them myself, so I wish I could speak more to the direct mechanics. But it seems like most nights, if my raid group is going, they want to run the old raids, so we just do the same old raid wings.
Fair.
Those raids are staples, and I think what happened with this expansion strike missions is that there was only 2, and I think with that, the amount of variety quickly ran stale a little bit, and they're okay, but I find that these strike missions compared to the others, and even raid bosses, they just all kind of feel the same. They're all just static bosses. They don't move. They don't really have an aggro system. There's no complexity of positioning or finding where to position, how to position. And I think that's been happening for quite some time. Guild Wars 2 bosses, ever since like the end of Icebrood Saga, they don't move. They'll just stand there. And I think that is, once again, another missed opportunity to incorporate another element of gameplay, which is tanking, knowing where to position the strategies of when to split, when movement is such a big part of Guild Wars 2 that it's all about, this boss is going to be cemented in the middle of the arena, and you'll just have to run around the various mechanics and, try to dodge them, which is a bit of movement, of course, but the actual momentum of the minutes in the fight, it's all very much just stack behind the boss and hit it. So it did kind of end up feeling a little stale. The mechanics are interesting, I guess, but I do find the End of Dragons mechanics to be more exciting on normal mode than the end of the Secrets of the Obscure strike missions on normal mode. And yeah, I mean, I like them. I still run them. I still see people running them every once in a while. They'll pop in. There's only 2, so they're quite easy to get into and just to finish. And you also have the currency issue as well. Because there's only 2, you can't really generate as much currency as you really could have with the End of Dragons. And because it's only 2, you're kind of just trying to fight against your own boredom. And essentially, like, oh, I've already done this one like so many times. How many more times do I realistically want to do this? So, yeah, these strike missions were successful because they worked and they were endgame content. But when it comes to the diversity of the actual mechanics of how you are going to go into the fight with a different mindset, I would have liked that. I would have liked them to kind of challenge the mold of bosses.
Yeah, they have kind of taken the don't stand in the stuff on the floor to the nth degree. There's just, it's a lot. It would be nice to have some diversity. I completely agree.
That is true of the Fractal as well, then. Especially on the last boss. Although, actually, there's a bit more dodging of like a knockback.
He moves.
No, sorry, the stuff on the floor.
Oh, no, yeah,
There's
absolutely. There's a lot of that.
The whole moving through the actual Fractal is mostly stuff on the floor, funnily enough. That is a lot of that. But the Fractal specifically, which I did last night randomly with Smudgem, shout out, was pretty cool. Last boss is on level 25 Fractal. I think is the first time you can do it, and it's pretty cool. I enjoyed it. There was a little bit of story in there. Not going to spoil it. It was informative. It was fun. The last fight, I rolled a healer because we weren't struggling with it, but it was just taking a long time for us to get the HP down, and we were basically getting bored with doing it because it was just taking ages, and we didn't have rolls because I just got a group together and said, bring whatever, and everyone was just playing whatever.
This one's tough.
So yeah, having rolls and that was just, it made it more enjoyable. And yeah, it was okay. It was like we got Fractal. That's good. When was the last time we got Fractal before that? Ugh. Was that the End of Dragons one? I'm just trying to see if they're pumping up the deliverance of fractals a little bit more, because I'm trying to remember and I feel like I've missed something in terms of when these were added. Oh, it doesn't give me the order.
It was Silent Surf. Silent Surf was
Silent Surf?
No.
Was it?
Yeah. Was it Kanaxai? It was Kanaxai, wasn't it?
Oh, the last Fractal
Silent Surf. Yeah.
Which.
So we've actually had 2 in the last 2 years, which is actually upping their frequency. Because the last one we had before that was Sunqua Peak, which was 2020. Oh, actually, they had one in 2000. Actually, no. They did have a good run. Just bollocks. Just ignore everything I just said. They had from 2016 to 2020. They had one every year, and then they had a bit of a break. Sunqua Peak came in 2000. No, that was the one in 2020. Again, ignore everything I just said. Rewind. Let's go on to the next thing. Convergences.
Converging. Are we ready to converge?
We are ready to converge. On convergences. What do you reckon, peeps? I actually really enjoyed it the first time I went in there. Any who wants to jump in on this one? This is more of a just general pop feelings out into the ether thing.
I like it. I just think that the pre-events take a bit too long for normal mode. Because you have to go, okay, so the breakdown, you do the pre-event, you do the Zoja stuff, and then you have to fight 5 champions on 4 sectors of the map, which then spawns another champion on each sector. Then you have to kill that one. And then you can go to the final boss. So I like convergences. I love that we're going inside of Nyos into a completely different area that, is separate from inner Nyos map. And the randomness of the bosses is also really fun. I like that there's a little bit of a, ooh, which one are we gonna get now? So I just think if they sped it up a little bit, refined the public, the normal version of convergences, where you only had to fight like maybe 2 champions on each sector, which then spawns the main high general, and then you kill that one, and then the main one spawns. I think if they just clean it up a little bit, it'll be perfect. Because I'm also concerned that in the future, people will not do convergences as often because of the time it takes, and because it's really only about the Cryptus essence. So we'll have to see how the community responds. But I thought this was a very smart addition along with the rifts and the essence system.
Yeah, this did complement them. Actually, the rifts. Yeah, it was necessary. That was cool.
I agree. I thought this was kind of even kind of what I was sort of imagining initially rifts might be. Not that they all had to be this big or long or anything, you know, but that it might be a little bit more something like this with the kind of that random element, or like you and your team like go in and try to figure it out. So this felt like a really great sort of extension upon this concept, and adding a new kind of aspect to it. And all the feedback I've heard about the CM has been really good. People seem, at least from what I've heard, they seem to have been really enjoying it and really liked that was added with the finale. And having the extra bosses and all of that, I think is great. I agree with Kroof in that I do wonder if there, you know, what kind of longevity there will be. Because it's one of those things where, given the amount of stuff that you get from it to expedite things like the legendary armor, right? If there aren't groups running it, sorry, bless me.
Bless you. Bless
I
you.
had to sneeze. All that Cryptus essence up in here. If like there aren't groups running it, or large enough groups, then it's one of those things where it's going to make that process that much slower, or that much more arduous. But I mean, again, if we're talking about kind of rewards or the things like that, you know, how do you make something like this a little bit more applicable as something like meta events that people want to run and want to farm or want to stay engaged with even beyond this? Might be something to think about. But I think this was a cool piece of content. I will say this is a piece of feedback just from me, which isn't to say that this is something that, again, they should not keep implementing in the game. I have personally some difficulties with things that are a specific occurrence window. Like if it's something where like the public version only runs at like these specific times or stuff like that. Sometimes it's totally fine, and you know, like with metas and stuff, they turn over fast enough that I'm like, oh cool, I'll do this or that, or I'll see what's up. But sometimes in these pieces of content that are a little bit more specific, like it's not like I'll just run any meta and get a bunch of stuff, right? It's like, oh, I need to do convergences, when's the next one up or something. It sometimes keeps me from engaging with the content. Because if I go in, if I'm like, hey, right now I have an hour before I need to cook dinner, and oh, I just missed a convergence or something, the chances that I remember to look for the convergence again immediately diminished. The chances that I remember to plan around the timing of the, you know, convergence, it's very, very hit or miss for me. And I know that won't be the case for everybody, but that has probably been one of the largest things that has kept me from doing convergences, because I genuinely just forget when they run. I have very specific windows of time when I can play, you know, maybe I just hop on to try and do something, or I'm on stream or whatever it is. And there's already so many timers to keep track of in the game that sometimes I just have trouble figuring out, you know, as somebody who isn't streamlining this process, planning out my hours of I do exactly this and then that and then this at that and then this at 30 after and then this at like, it's something where I find that I have trouble sometimes engaging with content. If I'm logging in just for like an hour and I'm like, okay, gosh, what's on what timer and when does it run and how does and when do I and so that's maybe one of my feedbacks about convergences. I would have liked to engage with them more than I did during Secrets of the Obscure. But I really only got in a couple times, and it continues to slip through my mind, which is partially my fault. But I think it's also something to be said about tying content or big farms or things to something that might have more of a specific time window that players have to kind of keep track of themselves. And so.
Yeah.
And as I say in chat, they say you can open a private one, which is true, but then that also involves me like having to organize and get a whole bunch of people together, and which again is something where it's doable. And I'm sure if I put up like an LFG and stuff, probably there would be people that wanted to fill it. But like we've talked about before in the past, without auto queues and stuff like that, sometimes that extra step can be what determines for me or for other people whether or not they're going to try to essentially organize an impromptu raid night to do something,
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
We need an auto matching system in the game. It's bonkers. We need an auto matching system in the game so that we can spin up.
We can't go down that road now, Pornix. I am putting the hammer down on that conversation.
We'll be here for a few more hours.
We are all with you.
I mean, yeah, it's not like a conversation piece. This is just like, I am the grand arbiter of reality now. This is what we need.
Yes,
that's the
need it.
yeah.
We will do an entire podcast on this in the future if this does not happen soon. To remind them. Okay, yeah, convergences. I think I agree with you in terms of absolutely the timer on that is. If I'm playing the game and it's not on, it doesn't exist. It's not something I can do. It's not something I'll ever do. I've done them a handful of times and I commanded them, and they're really fun when you do them. They're like really good content, but like, I've said it before and I'll say it again. ArenaNet loves to hide a lot of their best content behind random achievements and timers, and it's kind of a little bit frustrating. And I get it. Like, you need a lot of people to do it, so you want people to look it up so that they can get involved. But they actually have items in the game which already let you know that something's going on, but you have to pay for it. So they need to make another item that you can earn in game, not pay for, where you just have like, those kinds of events, the ones that happen every 2 hours, right? Like that would be cool.
I don't even think that you should have to earn it. I think it should just be a feature of the game.
If you played...
it should be a PvE specific tab, because we have specific tabs for World versus World and structured PvP. We don't have any tab dedicated to open world,
timed events,
dungeons, fractals, raids, or strikes. We don't have any type of panel that shows like meta timers or what the daily fractal is, what the daily strike mission is. Those are all kind of hidden under achievements. So I've always kind of championed that we should have a dedicated PvE tab where you can go to actually see what the PvE content in this game is.
And I would just love it. Yeah, and you can like just automatically go to it, or you can tick like a little box or something if it's like convergence starting in 30 minutes or whatever, and you tick that box like remind me 5 minutes before or something, or when it opens, and then a little message pops up like in the upper right hand corner or something, and it's like, hey, your convergence is starting. Like, I think that would be so helpful.
There was this really good feature in Warhammer Online where you would, to coordinate players into an area where they would fight in populated places, because there's so many. It was all about realm combat, realm versus realm, right? And you had PvE areas on the side, but they eventually brought in this system where you would have like a scroll that popped up, and it was like populated areas, and you would just click the scroll with the picture and the text, and it would take you to that region, almost like a couple of minutes away, and you're in a fight, you're in a place where something is happening. So these systems do exist, and that kind of thing that you're talking about is exactly what they should have for these. And the thing is that if they do that now, then it'll be like, oh well, we have this paid item that people purchased in the past, and now what do we do with that? Well, it's like, well, you can still do it for other things. It doesn't have to be for everything. You don't have to negate the thing you had.
Maybe it doesn't necessarily teleport you to it. It just shows you the location of it and when it is happening, so that you can then plan it out. And then if you happen to have paid for the World Boss Portal device, you can have an option to automatically teleport to it.
Wicked. Well, hopefully, maybe something in the future. We'll bring it back to the specific podcast. Not podcast. The theme of Secrets of the Obscure, but definitely a want for the future. Public instances group content, pretty good, not bad. I think all in all, like, not everything in the world, not like, I mean, I think there's still the idea that people they just want the raids back, and there's some hints that is going to be a possibility from the latest teaser in the new expansion, but that's not this one, so we didn't get that. We are going to roll over towards other stuff unless anyone wants to talk about those anymore. Not really. Good. Okay, now we come to the biggest thing, and we're starting to wind down on this podcast episode, because we used to do episodes this long. I do not know how we did that. I honestly don't. I'm flipping tired. And I'm sure people have food they want to eat and beds they want to go to. Just for like mostly.
Y'all, I can't even
past
tell
midnight,
you.
it's fine.
I'm about to eat so much food after this.
Oh, yes, me too.
Gotta work out first. Then I get dinner. The Wizard's Vault was the crown jewel.
We're talking about the Wizard's Vault?
We haven't talked about it. No, not really specifically. We talked about skins, but we didn't talk about like the actual thing as the future. That voice, sorry, it's getting into my head. Yes, it was wicked. One of my favorite things from the expansion, and this is going to be a future thing moving forward. So they've just brought it in with this expansion, but I think we can count it because, like Rook said earlier, there were certain features of it that were only accessible if you had the expansion, so it's still relevant to the expansion. Really cool, giving you access to a bunch of stuff. Fornax, did you love it or did you hate it, or are you asleep?
I'm still here. I like it. I like the Wizard's Vault. I like the rewards that we can get, especially like that we finally have mount skins that we can get in game. I would like mount skins also to be available for like open world content, not just but like, you do a raid, you get a mount. That's a kind of traditional MMO thing that I would love to see. I don't begrudge them making money off the game. I want them to be a successful studio, but there are some just like basic things that would be nice. But I do love the Wizard's Vault. My only complaint is that I feel like they need to have a bit more turnover of the items. I don't like the old Mother Hubbard cupboard of is there at the end of the month. I think a month is too long. I love the fact that everything is evergreen. That's great.
Well,
that's
3
fantastic.
months, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh God, it is 3 months, isn't it? Jesus.
Months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so maybe they should do a monthly turnover of it because
look, this it. You can see it on the screen right now. You're right. Old Mother Hubbard.
Yeah.
I was so like that.
Cupboard is bad. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Such a good comparison.
No, that's it. I like it. Good, thumbs up. It doesn't. I mean, for me, it doesn't get me logging in every day. It just doesn't. I don't work like that. But for lots of people, it does, and that's what the game needs. And it's good. But yeah, more shinies, more often, please.
Yeah.
And they don't even have to be new shinies. They can be like old shinies. But put some old shinies on there from other content. Come on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, you can put skin collections maybe in there that aren't tied to really difficult fit content, and like just be like, you just don't get the achievement points for it. Like I don't know, like anything, like even old costumes that they're putting in the Twitch drops, like start chucking some of them out like once every month. Like there's a bunch of them.
Old Black Lion skins and stuff like that that are getting retired. Just go for it. But yeah, no, it's good. That is all. It is good. Well done. Gold star.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next person. Who wants to chime in next?
Proof.
No, you go.
No, Proof, you go.
Oh, you want me to go?
Oh,
If one of you don't go, I'm gonna go eat and come back.
Oh, I want to go. Fine, I'll leave. Bye, everyone.
No.
No,
Okay, but
I
not
said
right.
I'll go.
Okay.
Well,
you.
go.
I love the Wizard's Vault because it has smashed two concepts together: the dailies, weeklies, in a parenthetical, and then also they have smashed the battle pass into the same system. So I think it is great in terms of just connecting a lot of things together to incentivize players to log in consistently. And I would like, if not for them to update it like every month, if whenever you have one of those sold out slots, if it is then replaced with something like the gold or the crafting bag, something that is more like one of the repeatable items, just so you can always have that like clear and present. You don't necessarily have to scroll all the way down. But other than that, I like the system. I think the Wizard's Vault is great.
Excellent.
I just pretty much what everybody else said. I won't go over it all again.
Yeah.
We've said it before, but I honestly think Wizard Vault was one of the best things that's ever been added to the game. And I think it was a huge feature to come out from Secrets of the Obscure, and agreed with some of the UI stuff and not letting it look like old Hubbard's cupboard and everything else. But I honestly think that it's been fantastic, and it's offered such a great alternative way to get something for whatever time you're spending in Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, especially those mount skins and whatnot that we really wanted to just be earnable in the game. And yeah, it did let me, I did log into the game pretty often to get that done, but that's slowly tapered off. It's definitely not enough. It's enough for me. It's enough for at the beginning, like Fornax was saying as well, like, you know, because I really want to get all the new skins, but I tend to find that I've saved up enough Astral Acclaim that I almost get to buy most of them in the first instance.
How would you feel if they completely reset it each
your
cycle?
Acclaim? I think that would be fine. I'd be fine with that. But then
Do you think people would be angry?
I think at the end of the day, like they will save up the Astral Acclaim, and you can only save up so much. So you're either saving it up and spending that time to do it, or you're just doing that same farm at the beginning. So it really just depends, like, when do they want it to happen? When do they want to engage with the system more, the dailies more, right? Like, you know, so either way, I don't actually think it really matters. I think sustainable, consistent rewards are the thing which they should definitely look at more, for sure.
I think if you try and reset people's Astral Acclaim, I can hear 1,000 forum mods screaming out in pain and agony before it even no, just don't do it to them, guys. It's a hard job. Come on, show them some love.
Geronimo says like, no, no, don't do it.
No, please think of the moderators. Yes.
Oh, I need to move in the game, otherwise I'm going to be kicked. Excellent new feature. We've banged on about this in nearly every single in every single episode, so I think we're all probably burnt out how good it is. I think it was just such a, whoever had that idea, or like people that came together to have those ideas, wicked. Also, we got things like infusions from them as well. Which were really, really cool. And other stuff. Mount skins, blah, blah, blah. Also, we got new emotes. We got chairs in the vault, which was really cool. There were new, I think there wasn't guild decorations, but guild decorations did come in with this expansion. There's obviously new fish and new fishing stuff, which was very cool. Other than that, I think we've covered nearly everything. Pretty much the main bits and bobs. There's going to be a comment at the end. Someone's going to drop a comment and just be like, the one major feature that we were just like,
hey,
really?
You guys missed that part where they added that one interaction on the minimap that you can now do, and and
So
to that comment,
true.
we are so sorry.
It's our bad.
You know, in the case that someone points something out, we are so sorry. I'm so apologetic that we forgot that. I know it was your favorite topic, and we really just didn't have enough time. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Something I am gonna do though is show the I'll show the kind of video that we were, myself and Rook were in for a moment as well.
Mini pod.
audio. He's going to have some audio and then we'll talk about it. So I'm going to play it now and then we can talk
Right
about it
now?
afterwards.
Like right now? Should I like, stop talking right now?
Right now, though, I think is when Jebro's.
Stuff's happening. There's chaos. Secrets on the interior. My eyes! It's too much beauty! Oh my gosh, this is so good. Light. I like the light.
We're gonna do a bomb too?
Oh no, is this the...
I was almost at the end.
This is absolutely amazing so far.
Is that an actual dwarf? It is the dwarf. Oh no! Oh no, they trolled us!
She's not tiny. Oh my gosh, hi, please step on me like any day.
Put a one in chat if you have a crush on Kesa. I'm having so many thoughts I can't even articulate them fast enough. This expansion is everything.
Nice one. Really good. Really good. Like, that was a really cool... Yes, packs, indeed. The meta broke when we were doing it, which is why I said they trolled us. I meant ArenaNet did, because they broke. When we were, like, you know when you hide behind the rock on the end of the first meta, and the damage comes towards you? Like, there was something where the timing was off, and it kept killing us whenever we'd hide behind the rock. And we just all died the first time, and I was like, they trolled us. And Pax in the chat, like, explaining the meta to me. And I was literally okay, we need to go fix that in a bit, maybe, or something. I think it was on the weekend, though, as well, which is even more funny. But yeah, like, you saw Rook's like incitement and stuff, and again, like, most of this was actually the beginning, like, you could sort of the expansion as well, but like, we were genuinely like this all genuine excitement, and there is a lot of joy just genuinely in the expansion. This review is a review of the expansion as a whole, but we're talking about our experiences throughout as well, in different places, like where the story was put out, with the difference between the expansion and the actual story that was told over a year, because the story is still part of the expansion. Yeah.
I love this video. Like, keep doing these. They're awesome. That was so cool. And it was, I think it added a nice little note at the end here that felt like a positive, uplifting thing about the whole journey. And I mean, yeah, like we said, you have to think about the entire thing, and really genuinely with the first drop, there was so much I was so excited about, and there was still a lot of good. And as we covered today, there was a lot that came out with this expansion and that we got with this expansion. So with some of the adjustments that they made, and you know, that you can read more about in detail on the blog posts, I think that they're going to keep refining this and keep moving forward, because even if the second half was it had its weak points, right? It's great to actually get to look back at everything and see all the stuff that we got, again, for like $25, which is nothing in the greater landscape of game purchases and releases, particularly for most other MMO expansions, right? So it was awesome. I mean, and I feel a lot of those fond memories and that excitement as well. And I felt like even watching that video brought some of those back a little more clearly for me, because even if, the last couple releases, I was like, oh, there's a lot they're going to have to adjust. There were still moments where I was like, this is awesome. This is so good. Because it is, like, especially that first part.
Awesome.
I think it's so easy to kind of like forget the experience in the nitpick, because we are looking at this and we are drilling down and we are really going into the weeds and we're talking about the minutiae, but most people have like a 30,000 foot view of expansions, because they just run in them and they blast through and they're in the environment and they're enjoying it, and then and it's not an analytical process for them, it's an emotional process and it's a gameplay process, and for that the main expansion, the real expansion, Naos aside, was just great. Was it perfect? No expansion is perfect. Were there things they could have done better? Of course there are. But it was great, and I had feelings and I had emotions, and I enjoyed playing through, and I was connected to the characters, and I enjoyed it, and I wanted to explore more, and the fact that I wanted more it shows that they hooked me. They did it. When I was when even going into Naos, I was ready. I wanted to explore the realm of dreams. I wanted all these things. They'd done their job. They'd hooked me in. They couldn't deliver because they'd kind of like blown their budget, and but hey, they did their best. They gave it expansion, and I would say the wizarding section of the whole thing was a great success, and I'm really looking forward to them building on them. So, I mean, if you listen to this podcast, you will think, oh, there's just nitpick. But, I mean, that's kind of our task here, is to kind of do a bit of an autopsy of it. But it doesn't, but the high notes, the top notes, the kind of the 50,000-foot view of it was a great expansion, especially for their first annual expansion at this scope. And hopefully they're going to roll everything that they've learned into the next one. It's going to be even better.
Do we, to knock that on the head, give a rating of it? Is that easy to do with an expansion like this? I don't even know.
I think we already gave story ratings at least, but I mean, I think all of this, to me, numerical ratings, it's funny to me because I've seen it over the years with like, yeah, they're kind of bollocks. Like I've seen it with other games that I, either have reviewed for a long time on podcasts or stuff like that. Your 7 5 years ago might be a 3 now, or might be a 10 now, or might be a, so for me, I feel like giving a good, thorough discussion, talking about it, giving our feedback, to me, that feels like a more accurate summation.
Yes.
Personally.
Good. No. We'll that is what we'll finish with then for that. I do want to do a very quick look at the teaser that we got this week as well before we go, because I think it's good to do before next week, because we're going to get more details and we may actually not get the chance to just have thoughts about this. But generally, all in all, I was pretty much happy with most of what we got. I mean, happy in terms of it was okay. Like I enjoyed parts of it. I was a little bit sad in other parts of it, but like the latter half, the last couple of updates, I mean, we've talked about the reasons why. Story, essentially, biggest part of that was there was a lot of letdown in there for a lot of folks. Again, I am not as tied to the story as much as other people are, but I still feel it and I still love the story, and I've always have, but I'm not as committed as everyone else to the story. So I'm like, as long as there's things I can kill and I'm not bored, I'm normally pretty good. But I did get bored. So
no, hang on. No. I give the expansion 2 eyes and 6 nipples. There you go.
Yay! There
Perfect.
you go. Just the right amount for some kind of animal. And what about you, Chris?
Same.
Excellent. Good stuff. Let's look at this before we go. Thank you so much if you've gotten this far. You are a trooper, because it has been truly a long time. But we did have a little bit of a teaser, because there's some information coming up already about the next expansion. The last one's already ended. And don't forget, that is one big bonus of doing this entire thing the way they're doing it. One expansion ends, we get information about the next expansion, this is part of the cycle, almost immediately. That is like 2 weeks. And that would have been from like end to new thing. So let's watch and see what this is about.
Oh my god, I can't believe they just confirmed fish in Guild Wars 2.
I know, it
Oh
is
my
pretty
God.
wild. Fish that aren't 2D. They don't have any 2D fish. I don't actually. Maybe around the grass and kind of areas. I'm not sure.
Thank you so much, Guild Wars 2, by the way, for revealing the new expansion on my birthday.
Oh, my God!
Right.
Shit, that's next week. Wait, is it?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Thank you. Great birthday
Perfect
present. So excited. I
present.
can't wait.
Now we
And
all
it
know.
looks like, I don't know what we're getting here. There's been all sorts of talk from underwater weapons now being, like we've been asking for even on the podcast, like now being usable for classes. There's been discussions about legendaries. There's been discussions about new raid wings, about the possibility of dungeons making a return, about there's so many people theorizing. But I am excited. This looks enigmatic, mysterious, but looks like we're going to be revisiting some places and getting something really cool and new and different, even though we're revisiting parts of the world maybe we know, or who knows? I have no idea.
I saw people talking about this region-wise as being somewhere north of the Char region towards Norn, like more mountainous regions. I can't remember the area it was specifically, but I was like, and they were talking about that the structures being more like non-specific as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh.
They do kind of look like the old school Norn villages that they used to have in the original games. They do have that feel. I mean, this could be player housing.
Yes.
This could be a small
Sounds
instance
that,
section of player housing,
That's right.
which would be amazing. It could be Cascade Falls. It could be somewhere in Janthea because of the eye that was there. I do love the idea that we are going to get more utility out of the water weapons. I loved the Paragon in the original game. I loved that, the whole aesthetic of it and the kind of cheerleading support class that they were. So I'm all for that. But yeah, I'm really hopeful. But it's I spent some time looking at this, and other than what looked like a salmon, I don't know whether there's like something special about salmon that gives away a location.
Right.
Maybe Cascade Falls, because salmon actually have to swim up. Anyway, but that was my brain.
That's a good point,
but yeah. I feel like we're going into the mountains. I feel like it's got to have something to do with Janthea, which we have never been to. So there's a load of old lore up there. There's a load of Masat lore. I'm into that. Of course, Livia was hinted at coming into the story again, and she is very much connected with those themes, having murdered the last Masat that she knew about on the on the Ontario. So I'm really hopeful. I'm looking forward to new story.
It's awesome though to think of it that we're gonna be able to use like a spear on land, like even just that. And you know what? That wasn't even the first thing I noticed. When I saw it, I was like, "Whoa, player housing!"
Oh, I didn't think that at all.
Like that was the first thing I thought, and I was like, "Whoa!" My brain just went off on player housing. It was so funny. Oh dear. Anyway, anyone predictions just based off of this? What region do you think? And then we'll probably head out. I think from there.
I think like north of the human area, north of the Cascades.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I think somewhere around there too. Given the salmon, the trees, the style of things.
Janthea.
I mean, yeah, maybe Janthea. Yeah, I mean,
Maybe like close to Janthea. This area doesn't really give me what I expect it to look like, but it might be.
it almost gives me more Pacific Northwest vibes, kind of like Drizzlewood.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like
I mean, could it be the Dominion of Winds finally? I mean, that would be amazing.
I mean, that would be amazing. Maybe. I'm not gonna get my hopes up, but
This is the best. This is the part of expansion. The expansion I enjoy actually the most. Not even it coming out. I think it's just like the speculation is like one of the biggest things I enjoy, because anything is possible, right? Like anything is possible. The ideas and thoughts, especially when we do the podcasts around this, because it's just like, what's gonna happen? And then like, it's unicorns and dragons and oh god damn, it's awesome. Anyway, we're gonna into that. Wonderful. Everyone is definitely happy probably about that, because it's been a long one today. And we used to do this, as I said, very regularly. Jesus.
Gosh.
Ow. Ow.
Gosh.
Okay, yes.
You heard it here
logo,
first, folks.
What?
Yeah, if you buy the new expansion, you get your own tentacle monster demon sex thing for you every time.
And you get to put it in your new
everybody.
home instance as well.
Absolutely.
I have to share Herbert now. Wow. Okay.
This is not officially endorsed by ArenaNet. We do not speak for them.
I honestly,
Tentacle monsters for all.
Can you imagine if they brought player housing and raiding back into that expansion? That would be a lot
of people would be happy.
That would be pretty wild. You would get so many people coming back to the game.
Yeah.
It would be ridiculous just with those two things, but you're already bringing more weapons onto land. Oh man. Okay, that's gonna be next week because it's gonna be revealed on Rook's birthday, which is next week.
Woohoo!
We'll celebrate that as well. Happy birthday.
Let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate that.
That's pretty important. Okay, lovely podcast, everyone. Thanks so much for being here, doing your thing, and giving up a lot of time and effort to do the things. Everyone in chat, thanks so much for watching as well. Kroof, tell us what you do. What you doing?
Hi, I'm Kroof. You can find me at YouTube and Twitch. I also was not selected for jury duty, so I'm happy about that.
I saw. Yes.
Let's celebrate that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can catch me on the internet. Type in Kroof, and I'll probably pop up. If I don't, something's wrong with your Google.
You might be using Bing, probably. One of the two. Phonics says, where you do it.
Hey, I'm Fornix, the Correct Herald. Please go and watch my review of SoTO. It's out now. Please watch that. And if you don't want to do jury duty, just tell them you know what jury nullification is, and they will never select you. There. That is my gift to you. Yes, Google jury nullification. But yes, please watch my video. What? I'm a diverse bitch. That's what I am. Yes.
You're diverse and basic, apparently. We found out today once again.
Yes. And touting, I'm a pimp for a tentacle monster. What can I say? Yes. Please, God, watch my video.
So many things. So many things. I'm gonna work out and watch your video because it sounds really hot.
It's so not.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Rookery, tell us what you do and where you do it.
Yes, you can find me on Twitch at Rookery. That's ROOKURI. You can find me on YouTube at the same, and you can find me on Twitter at Rookery_. So far, I don't have any sex tentacle monster stuff up there, but like, if it takes off for Fornax, I might jump in on that as well.
And that's what you're getting for your birthday.
And I might jump on that. So.
Group is already on.
Don't just keep being yourselves, people. Don't forget to like, wow. Lightbringers podcast, twitch.tv/JebroUni. I am having problems talking. I've been talking all week. That's my job. We still do it on a Friday for 4 hours. Really good job, Jebro. Come and watch us next week. We'll be talking about the reveal of the expansion. Who knows how much information they will bring. So we may be a shorty, but it'll probably be a longie. And that you can take as however you want it. And I'm continuing with this.
Come on. That's what she said. That's what she said.
That's what they said. No, it's all about being equal. And we will see you next time. YouTube.com/JebroUni. Google the Lightbringers podcast. We're on Spotify and all the things. See you soon. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Enjoy the episode and future life gatherings. I'm trying to find the outro bit. There it is. Bye.